Hello everyone, hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. Very exciting day of chess ahead of us. It's either a little bit late somewhere or it's, I don't know, early somewhere. It's not that early here. I'm broadcasting from England and it's only 10:30 in the morning, so hello to everyone who's still awake in America. You're having a very late session over there. And got a very interesting broadcast ahead of us. Now, I know if you're watching this on the Twitch channel, we just need to change the title there. I'm afraid it's not the Women's World Championships, and I'm not Robert Hess. I'm sorry about that. Robert Hess is well asleep at the moment. We're actually broadcasting another exciting event, which is the Leon Chess Festival in Spain. So this is a tournament that goes on every year in Spain, but obviously now it's held online because of, well, the COVID situation. And we are in for a very exciting match. Extremely exciting. Now, the match we are actually going to be commentating on today is between two of the most talented juniors in the world. And the two juniors you can see, I always get that wrong. I always point the wrong way. They're over there. They're over there, guys. You have, and I'm sorry if I pronounce the names wrong. I'm notoriously bad at pronouncing names, but we have Esipienko, and Esipienko is extremely talented player from Russia. I'll tell you a little bit of history about Esipienko. Esipienko was born in 2002. He's a grandmaster. I think he became a grandmaster at around the age of 14, something like this. He's been European under-10 champion and world under-16 champion. I can remember Esipienko playing an amazing game to defeat Sergei Karyakin in the Blitz World Championships. So he's really strong. But his opponent is another prodigy, and I'm going to call him by the first name, Nordy Beck. And Nordy Beck is a Uzbekistani chess player. And he qualified for the Grandmaster title at the age of 13. So these guys became Grandmasters at 13 and 14, which is just unbelievable, yeah? Unbelievable. And I don't know if he was the youngest ever Grandmaster in the world. He was certainly second youngest Grandmaster in the world, was the young player from Uzbekistan. And it's going to be a very exciting match. Now, we're just waiting for them to start. So we will get cracking with this match of prodigies straight away. They're not, by the way, it's not the Women's World Championships. Just clarify that. It's the Leon competition. And I know that Bick in the chat is having a go at changing the title as we speak now. So we're going to be starting with the first game very soon. So do stay tuned. I'm hearing that there are some slight problems with one of the internet connections of the players, but I think they're just rectifying that at the moment. Now, the format is 4 games. So they play 4 games and they're playing the time limit of, you can see this below, I'm sure you can all read. 4 games, 20 minutes plus 10 seconds a move. This is the same format that some of the other matches were played, which I commentated on with earlier on the week, once with Naroditsky and once with Krikor, both fantastic chess players. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys get on. I'm looking forward to this. I mean, I love seeing potentially future world champions play. These guys are already much better than me. And it's look at their ratings. They're both over the 2600. So you could say they're both in the super Grandmaster range. Now, I know they're just changing their camera angles, so let's just see how they're getting on with another view I've got here. Let's go over there now. Oh, look at that. Now I'm going to have to change all my views. Thank you, guys. So you can see that they're preparing for the match already. I'm just going to readjust their cameras. So let me just do that while they get their positioning set up. Okay, so we're just getting framed now. So another great thing about these matches nowadays is you can see them live. You can see the guys live. So this is Esipienko here, and we're just gonna frame Esipienko in his box if we can. Look at that lovely camera angle, hey? Okay, we'll try framing that one again. So we'll be able to watch them live. We might be able to get some tells of their body language. You never know. It's always interesting to see the live cameras. And you can see he's got a lot of trophies behind him, hasn't he, Esipienko? Look at all those trophies. How many trophies do you think he has there? Look at them on that top cupboard behind him, the wardrobe behind him. So, and we also have, hopefully the Zoom call will hold up for Nordy Beck. We're trying to get him in now on the Zoom call there. I know from my own experience, when you're playing these matches, if you're trying to deal with the technical sides of things as well, it can have a little bit of effect on your play. So I hope they're able to concentrate fully on their chess playing abilities when they get going. So you can see they are in there and looking ready to rock and roll. Yeah. So we're going to get started very soon. I hope you got. What time is it anyway? What time is it, guys? Where are you all now? What time are you having here? So it is 10:35 here over in England. I'd like to welcome everyone. I'll be watching the chat. I think we're going to start in 15 seconds. I'll be watching the chat on twitch.tv/chess. Now go easy on Bigfoot. Bigfoot is the mod and he's trying to change the title. Give him a bit of time. Everyone in America's asleep. Let them have their beauty rest. They need to have their little rest over there. It's the middle of the night. Looks 3:35. Says Mr. Viking TA. Hello, Mr. Viking. Do you like my Viking beard? I'm not Robert Hess or Botez with this beard. Okay, we're in with the first game. So we are in. Oh, well done. Bick has changed the title. Round of applause for Bick. And we have Esipienko with the white pieces here. And Esipienko is starting with d4. And I'll try to... Obviously, the Zoom call's a little bit dodgy for Nordy Beck. So we're going to see if he comes back. This could be a very quick victory, couldn't it? There he goes. Bye, Nordy Beck. Bye. It was nice to have you for a second or two. It's nice to have you for a second or two. It feels like Simon hasn't got any tooth. Well, that's very bad English for a start. It's pronounced teeth, just in case you need to work on those English skills of yours. And have you actually felt my teeth before? I don't know. Have you? That's a bit weird. The only way you'd be able to know if you couldn't feel I had any teeth by feeling them. Have you put your hand in my mouth? Anyway, sorry, I'm just engaging with the chat there. Hello, thank you everyone else for coming along. So we are waiting. Obviously, we're back. Okay, Nordy Beck is back now, and hopefully we will get this game aborted. So good start there for the show. Good start for the show. So they're going to get kicking off again now, and hopefully we won't have any more problems. It's not so important if we can't get the camera angles anyway. The camera angles is only a very small thing, isn't it? It's nice to see them. We can keep Esipienko on camera, and hopefully they'll start their rematch game soon. So the format, 4 games of 15 minutes plus... 20 minutes plus a couple of seconds move. We're just being told, as you can see, there are connection problems. So if they're not going to play any chess, I'm just going to have to play some blitz or something. Maybe I can pretend I'm a young talent, because I can. No, I don't think I'll pass. I have to shave off my beard. Maybe I can give Esipienko a game or two and get crushed. Possibly. I like the comments there in the chat. Ajamata will analyse his game, shortest game of history. We all love Ajamata. He's doing so many great things for chess, isn't he? Old Ajamata and his YouTube channel. But I can see the headline now. Prodigy loses in 5 seconds. You know, that would be a great little headline to see on on the show there. So anyway, let's just see who else is in the chat at the moment. So hello Pants, thank you, nice to see you as well. How are you up so early? Well, it's not that early, it's 10:38 here. To be honest, I'll let you into a little secret. I was supposed to be doing the commentary yesterday, but I got the times mixed up, hence why I wasn't doing the commentary yesterday. I kind of wish I was now, because I believe their internet connection, they at least had internet. The rumour now coming is that Nordy Beck, who's having internet problem, is going to send his moves by carrier pigeon into the Chess.com quarters from Uzbekistan, and we're gonna get the moves relayed by carrier pigeon. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be, you know, we might be here for a while. So don't tell the chat, Bigfoot. I got a little bit of a mix up yesterday. We're allowed to tell the chat that. I don't know about the carrier pigeon. It'd be a very interesting correspondence game by carrier pigeon, wouldn't it? The good old days of chess. Okay, so hopefully we are going to get this internet connection back and sorted soon. You can see Esipienko looking a little bit frustrated there as well at the same time. So we can tell you a little bit more information about the players. So the person on the camera there is not Nordy Beck, because his internet connection is down. That's Esipienko from Russia. Like I said, he's been called one of the most talented Russian players of all time. He is, I believe, 18 at the moment, so he's a little bit older than his opponent, Nordy Beck. That shows in his ability to be able to use the internet and computers. And he was World Under 16 champion. He was born in 2002. He's had a lot of good successes already. The one success I can kind of remember was his success in, I think it was the 2017 World Rapid Chess Championships. And in that, the World Rapid Chess Championships, he, like I said, got 7.5 out of 15, and he defeated Sergei Karyakin. Now, if you can get a link to that game, it's a fantastic game where Esipienko is one of my favourite games from the youngster. Really, really beautiful game. He's got a great future ahead of him in the chess world as Esipienko, so it's going to be interesting to see how strong he can become. You never really know with juniors, because you've got to keep improving in order to, you know, reach the heights of chess elitism. And generally what happens is, you know, these talented players who do a lot of work, they sort of plateau out at some stage. So they get to a certain level and they often plateau at that level. So, you know, you could get to GM 2500, very hard to do. You know, and then how do you get to 2600, and then 2700? So you've got to try to keep improving, which is really not easy to do. Now, what about his opponent, Nordy Beck, who you can see is just trying to set up a couple of camera angles there. So I will change the camera angles when we sort of have when we had the starting. Well, I've been told it's 16 seconds to start, so fingers crossed in. I'll change those camera angles live. But Nordy Beck, again, is the second youngest grandmaster in the world. So what a talented individual this guy is as well. And he's had some brilliant results as well, winning some very strong competitions. Okay, well, hopefully, fingers crossed, we are now in. So while they start playing their first moves, I'm just going to try to see if I can adjust their camera angles. So do bear with me with that before we can get onto the chess. So want to make sure you know who is playing who. So they are starting now with a Queen's Gambit. Oh, this is an interesting line. Now this is the Tarrasch variation. The Tarrasch variation is quite a rare guest actually, and they are now going into the main line Tarrasch with Nordy Beck playing this variation. Now this is supposed to be a bit positionally suspect for black, but black is supposed to get very active piece play. Now this is the main line with white gaining the bishop pair. This little tactic allows black to win that piece back, and of course they're still all in theory, so it's quite hard to keep up with the action as they're playing at the moment. Let's just see if we can get Nordy Beck into the frame. Oh, there you go, he's over the board, so we'll try to let you see the board. And these youngsters showing off their theory. It's much easier to remember theory when you're a young age like these two are. And they're still playing very quickly here. Queen e2 now played, so let's catch up with the game. So just to tell you their ages, Esipienko is 18, Nordy Beck is only 15 years old. Wow, only 15 years old. So they've gone straight into this kind of endgame position. Now this must all be theory. Now who do we think is better for this in this position and why? And it must obviously be white with the advantage. Why does white have the advantage? Well, it's something that a lot of people go on about in chess, the bishop pair. And the bishop pair in an open position is generally better than having, let's say, black, the two knights, or the knight and the bishop here, because the bishop pair work very well when there's no pawns blocking up the structure. So these bishops here have a lot of good range to strike across the board. So this is what white is trying to use the advantage of the white pieces on. So he's trying to say, okay, I got the white pieces, my bishops are going to try to outplay your position in a nice way. And I wouldn't want to play into this, I wouldn't want to play this opening as black. This is the kind of opening that I would avoid as black. Why would I avoid this as black? Generally because you're playing for two results. They say it's a two result game, meaning, you know, it's very hard against a good player to ever win this position as black. If white just plays normal sensible moves, then you would have thought white will either win or maybe black can hold a draw. This is what they say, a two result game, because the queens are off. There's not going to be many tactical skirmishes here, because I wouldn't say it's an ending, because every other piece is practically on the board except for the queens, but it is a position where you can see white also has the rooks controlling these nice files in the middle of the board. Now bishop e3 played. Maybe black could try to at least double the pawns here, so I'm thinking play knight to e5, put some pressure on the knight on f3. And the idea of this move would be to, well, maybe take here and force white to at least damage this pawn structure, force him to take like this. So maybe now Nordy Beck is considering this move, knight to e5. I'm very happy they got the internet connection sorted anyway. That is, there's only so much rubbish I can talk about before a match and try to prolong things. So at least now I can talk about chess, probably all to your pleasure as well. So here bishop to e3, and what is black going to do? So I just don't like black's position. I don't like the way this opening's gone. So now they've slowed down a little bit. Let's go back and just have a look at the opening moves very quickly. So because they played it so rapidly, and the time limit, you can see there's 4 games, it's 20 minutes plus 10 seconds move, and they played, okay, well, we have one more move, we have rook c8 played. So black just trying to get his rook on an open file there. Now I suppose black would like to exchange some pieces off, try to get this draw later on, but I just don't like the position. Okay, I'm going to go over the opening moves. So this is, just while we wait to see what they play, the Tarrasch variation. c5 is the Tarrasch. Now the issue with this variation is, in this position, the pawn here can be weak later on. So if you can imagine these two pawns being swapped off the board, which often happens because they're looking at each other, black is left with this pawn here. And why is this a weak pawn? It's called an isolated pawn because black cannot defend it with another pawn. So later on this pawn becomes very weak. Now the most forcing line is this move here, the move that was played, where black tries to gain some space in the center, and now he has to win his pawn back for a little tactic. This check gets his pawn back. By doing that, you can see white's gained the 2 bishops. White gains another tempo, and here e3 is a very important move because white is wanting to get rid of this strong pawn on d4 and open up the structure. Black develops, taking on b2, very risky. White develops, and now black does take on e3, and again taking here is maybe a possibility, but you can see one major problem you could run into here is a move such as bishop c5, stopping black from castling. And if white can then get a rook to e1, the black king could be slaughtered extremely quickly. So instead, queen b4 check was played, and then they had the queen exchange, leading us to the position that they have reached on the board after rook to c8. I still think this is just very pleasant for white. Maybe it's not so bad for black. Maybe black is just trying to draw with black and win with white. But again, these two bishops should give a long-term advantage. I mean, this bishop attacking a7 is going to be quite unpleasant, I feel, for black. Okay, so now Esipienko, these guys are both extremely good blitz players, has hit the bishop on g4, trying to force that bishop to make a decision about what it wants to do. And of course, maybe black will take here now, because there is something that white could do here, which is a very bad move here, guys. Can you see it? Everyone in the chat, like I said, I'm going to be watching the chat mainly at twitch.tv/chess. So I'm following all your comments over on that channel if you want to get involved with today's show. I'm only presenting on my own today. I don't have anyone to help me. They're all asleep in America. It's just me on my own. Well, the problem is you have to take with a pawn here, because if you take with a king, knight to e5 check is one rather embarrassing move. And this is the strength for knights. Knights are very, very tricky. They're very tricky pieces. They're really, really, annoyingly pieces. And you have to watch out for them. So I believe after this move, which has happened, white has to take back with the pawn. And now a6, because that pawn was on pre. So we have a typical position here where we have now two bishops versus two knights. The only slight problem in white's position is his pawn structure. This pawn structure over here is not ideal. It's not a major problem either, though, as the pawns are, they're not easy to attack. Bishops work very well with rooks as well. So I'm just thinking, this position, I really do quite like white already. Another thing I'd think about doing is, as white, I'd want to maybe stop my opponent moving his pieces to the best squares. And one way you should play with your bishops versus knights, you should try to take away the knight squares. This is a well-known thing. Now, you often aim to do that with your pawns. Now, it's not easy to do it with your pawns over here because they're a little bit ruined, but you might want to try to go like a3 and b4, because that just restricts the knight there. For example, the knight has these two squares it can move to, and you often use your pawns to restrict the knight. If you get your pawns there, the knight has nowhere to go. Another thing you could do is try and... Okay, so he has gone a3. Oh, look at that. My predictions are good today. And he's just trying to also give his bishop the a2 square. So if knight to a5, the bishop now has this diagonal here. It might look passive, but actually very good square for the bishop. And another thing I was thinking white could do in this position is even try to take this hole here for the bishop, because that stops black exchanging pieces of rook to d8. But I think it's very hard for black to to equalize here, because even if black exchanges off all the rooks, the bishops are so good. I just don't like the way this opening's been played by Nordy Beck. I think Esipienko's shown very good preparation so far. Got into this position very, very quickly. So what can black do? Is there any way black can play actively here? Okay, so he's gone rook here. Logical move, lining up against the king on e2. Now I see that Heightened Style has said it's very hard to make plans in this kind of position. Now I kind of agree with that, but one thing you do, if there's, if you haven't got an immediate way to go for checkmate or anything, you just got to improve your position as much as you can and restrict your opponent's position as much as you can. So this idea of going a3 and b4, he doesn't even have to go b4, is one way to improve. And then later on, you've just got to try to get your pieces to the best squares, make exchanges, find a weakness and attack it. Now, the one thing I think black will be wanting to do here, I think black is just going to try and stop white's pieces ever coming in, especially to the 7th rank. So this knight's a good defender, and black will probably have to be a little bit passive here. What should white be doing? So I talked about gaining space with something like this. This looks kind of logical. If I was white, I might just put my king to f1 because I want to get out of the pin on my bishop. Then my bishop has more freedom to move. So maybe something like king to f1. I don't think I want to move it into the center yet because it becomes very exposed on this file here, on the d file. So something like king to f1 looks quite logical. And then I'd have to try to find a way to get into black's position. I don't know how I'm going to do that at the moment. Can I try to eventually go like b5? This could be one plan. I'd have to prepare that quite slowly. So b4, a4 doesn't work straight away because I lose this pawn. But maybe I can try to force this knight backwards again. Try to restrict those knights. Something like that one. Quite hard to find any time. Okay, so he has gone king f1. So I'm doing a good job of predicting Esipienko's moves. But it's also one thing, you know, the Soviets are very good at. I mean, they call it the Russian school of chess, or the Soviet school of chess in the like 1960s and 70s, when Russia, Soviet Union, basically, you know, they were, except for maybe Bobby Fischer, you know, they were really for decades, well, even before the 60s, the strongest nation in the world at chess for so long. Why were they the strongest nation in chess? It's because the Soviet school of chess, they had very good teachers, and a lot of their books are now being published. So, you know, like you can also learn to play in their style. But one of their main things was in positions where you have a little advantage and there's not really many tactics, it's that thing of do not rush. Do not rush the position. You don't need to even win a game always by doing something. That sounds really weird. What you can often do to win a game, I've seen many grandmasters use this, is you can just try to slowly improve your position, be very patient, and you can wait for your opponent to do something rash. I mean, if Nordy Beck with the black pieces manages to hold this position, it's going to be pretty amazing. I'm you know, just because I'm very interested to see how he's going to defend. He's going to have to. I think he's just going to have to sit here, because the problem is if he ever tries to get active, well, he can't, and it's probably going to weaken his position. So he's going to need to show great patience. I mean, something like this may look like, oh, a good active move because it attacks the bishop and it attacks the pawn, but after something like bishop e2, it seems a little bit artificial, because now, okay, these could get exchanged, but that might even help white get a rook to this square on c7, and white can always start pushing this knight back, maybe with f4 later on. So it's going to be a hard defensive task here, I feel, for black. It's not clear how white's going to improve. We can think of certain plans, like I said, pushing the pawn to b5 slowly. Okay, he has gone here. He has gone for this one. So he's gone for the most active move. So he's trying to use those knights a little bit. I'm assuming here the bishop will just come back to defend, and it has come back straight away. And we can look at the time control. Okay, now black is trying to exchange off. Is he going to try to get his knight to d5 here? Maybe this is his idea. By exchanging that rook on c1, maybe he's trying to, you know, say, okay, if you go rook takes, you lose control of this square, so now my knight can move. And the one thing you can do with knights is, that's okay, is to keep them centralized. If you can keep your knights centralized, they're just as good as bishops, if not better. But I don't know how long these knights would even stay in this position. The other thing white can do, he doesn't have to hold on to his bishop pair. He could play a move like rook c5, tempting black into taking one of the bishops, but then saying, okay, the most important thing in a rook ending is the activity of your rook. And the white rook is so much more active than the black rook here, threatening to come into this position straight away. And you've still got one bishop. it's good having one bishop in an ending when there's pawns on both sides of the board, as there is here. There's pawns on the king side and queen side. Why is it good having a bishop in an ending when there's pawns on both sides of the board? It's good because the bishop is a long range piece, so it can attack both sides of the board. The knight, on the other hand, cannot defend both sides of the board. It takes a lot longer to, it's a short range piece. Bishop, long range piece, knight, short range piece. Now, if you can imagine in this position, if all these pawns, I just put in red there, were not on the board, so if you just take them off the board, then actually I prefer to have the knight, because the king side, all the pawns are on the king side, and the knight being a short range piece would be able to dart around in short range, and the bishop is not so good in close quarter battle. So that's what you've got to think. In close quarter battle, the knight's better, but a long range battle, the bishop is better. So that's something to bear in mind. I mean, okay, so we do have rook takes c1. Let's see how this develops. And now it's Nordy Beck to move. I would expect, though, after knight d5, that Esipienko will not want to exchange his bishop off. I expect he will just want to keep the bishop. Why, you know, you don't, why exchange off your bishop pair? And he'd probably move it somewhere like here, because he wants to keep control of squares that the black knights could use, mainly the f4 square. So if he moves his bishop to d2, knight to f4 is not possible, of course. And then next move, white can start trying to push these knights back. Maybe rook there is one idea, and maybe pawn here is another idea. Start pushing them back slowly, bit by bit. And that still, to me, looks very good for white. It's still, okay, so this has actually happened. Knight d5, bishop d2. What is black going to do next here? So black has gained a little bit of activity, but is it just temporary? That's what we've got to watch out for. It could just be something that, it looks like black's making a good job here, but actually he's not really going anywhere with it. What can black do here? It's good. I mean, this could be a very instructive game to see how the bishops play against the knights. We've got Esipienko, the Russian school of chess, playing now against Nordy Beck, the youngest grandmaster in the world. Remember, there's 4 games today. I'm going to be commentating each game if I can keep my voice. Time limit 20 minutes plus 10 seconds of move. So if they are drawn 2-2 after that, then it will go to a playoff situation of blitz chess to find out who the winner is. Now, there was a match yesterday. I think it was Savannah versus Nihal Sarin. And Savannah of Russia, another prodigy, beat Nihal Sarin to go into the final. And the winner of this will play in the final tomorrow. And then whoever wins the final tomorrow gets an invite to the big event next year in Lyon. And the big event in Lyon next year is, well, it's hopefully going to be played live, and it will, you know, this year it had Dominguez, Shirov, some great players there playing, some legends of chess. So it's always nice to, you know, carry on through into that position. Okay, now I see Esipienko's he's got his pen there, hasn't he? I hope he doesn't eat that pen. That can't be good for you. It can't be good for you. Don't eat the pen. Don't eat the pen. Is he writing his moves down? Is he writing his moves down? Why has he got a pen there? Very strange. The final will be streamed tomorrow at the same time. Yes, so it'll be 10:30, and it'll be the final of the World Young Talents. So I'll be commentating again tomorrow on the final. So that will hopefully be another interesting day of chess. Okay, so now this is the problem. Nordy Beck from Uzbekistan is thinking about what to do with the black pieces. What do we do here? I'm just trying to think of ideas. I mean, it's very hard. I mean, maybe black can try to get an outpost for his knight. This is why having, you know, if white had the pawn still... Whoa, what's going on there? That's weird. If white still had this pawn on g2, it'd be much better for white, because he could go g3. So if you imagine that pawn being on g3, that would help white a lot, but I don't think it's a big thing. So one thing I'm thinking that black could do, black could try maybe to go knight g6, and then he could try and use this square as an outpost for his knights, because I can't kick that knight away with a pawn. So this is one thing that black could do. The problem is you don't want to allow a white rook into c7 here. You don't want to allow that. So this is certainly one idea. While we're just thinking about what Nordy Beck is going to play, this is certainly a possibility. And now, how could white play this position? Let's have a think. I could try and put this here maybe. h3 is going to be weak when the knight comes in, so this is not a silly idea. I don't think he's played this yet. We'll come back to the game in a second, but this is certainly a possibility. Trying to get into this square, attack a pawn. So could be a decent idea. Now I could try to stop that and just play rook to c4, because then I'm controlling the f4 square, and you can no longer move your knight in. I'm restricting your knights, and that's what you've got to do. You've got to restrict. When you've got the bishops, you restrict the knights. And if you play something like b5, well, every pawn move makes a weakness, so a6 is going to be weaker later on. But I can even now play either rook c6, starting my own attack against your pawns, and it will get very interesting after knight f4. Or maybe preferably I go rook e4. And this is an interesting way to try and do this. Or maybe even better is rook d4. Yeah, let's do that. Let's attack that knight. And the problem with this knight in the center of the board is that the knight in the center is not stable. It hasn't got anything really protecting it. No pawns can protect it. So I don't think it's going to be able to stay in the middle of the board. And this is maybe a problem with knight g6. And now if this knight moves, where does it move? Well, black's starting to get kicked backwards. And now I can start just attacking these pawns. And if I win one of those pawns, you're in big trouble. The knights, as we said before, are short range pieces. And they can't come over to defend the pawns over there. So this is the kind of problem that black has in the current position. Okay, now we do have a couple more moves. Knight g6 was played, and instead of playing rook c4, which looked quite natural to me, bishop d3 played, and now the knight has come into f4. Okay, so that's interesting. Now I thought, okay, bishop f5 played, so the bishop is coming to defend h3. White can also now target these pawns from behind, so he can maybe even try to bring the bishop around this way. You can see how the bishop, they got such better range in these kinds of structures. Maybe even swap the rooks off first, put the rook there, because if you get a bishop to c8 and you start taking these pawns, it's really, really bad for black. I mean, black can win this pawn, but you've got to think, when black wins the h-pawn, is this h-pawn scary for white? Not really, because our king is in the way of that pawn. And one way to deal with passed pawns, which this could be in an ending, is to put your king in front of them. And that's also the problem with having queenside pawns. If you lose a queenside pawn, so let's say white is able to win this pawn here, the king can't get in the way to defend it. So that's why now Nordy Beck is moving his king hopefully towards these pawns. So for example, if white wins one of those pawns, he might better get his king into a better defensive role there. So there you go. Bano is saying their webcam arrangement and board size don't match. Well, I'm not perfect at production. They are going to change colours next match, so it'll match then. I didn't know what colour they were going to be until 10 seconds before the move. They've got their names. It gives it away, their names. You know, their names. Esipienko is Esipienko. And my pronunciation of names are so bad, being dyslexic, so I apologise if I pronounce it wrong. So I'm using the first name of Nordy Beck, struggling to pronounce Abdu Astatrova. Really sorry about that, but I struggle with my pronunciations. But you can see their names there, so you know who they are. Esipienko is the white pieces, and it is a little bit confusing. Sorry about that, but I'm sure you can work out what's going on. You know, come on. So here, the problem is someone's saying, what if black uses his pawns to try to kick the bishop away? Well, if you do that, if you try to go g6, then I think white just, well, okay, can't do it yet, it's white's move. But remember, the bishop can always come to c8, yeah? I think, unless there's a knight d3 and some tactics start. I mean, this is the kind of thing that white wants to play. I mean, one very simple way to play this would be rook to c8. But maybe there's a better way here. Maybe there's a better way. I mean, what if we go rook c4 now? This kind of move looks natural. I want to kick that knight away. I want to kick that knight away. We can do that. Attacking that knight with the bishop. This kind of move looks kind of normal, doesn't it? Trying to get rid of that strong knight there. So what is he going to play? Okay, well, what has he played? So no moves yet. No moves yet. And they're both now spent about half their time playing here. Someone's saying you like the wallpapers. Yeah, well, thank you. I thought we'd have a bit of forest behind me today. It's a nice little forest, isn't it? That is a very English forest there, I feel. Nice and green. We all like a bit of green in the forests. And it's, yeah, you know, I think I found that when I was listening to the song by The Cure, The Forest. If anyone knows the band The Cure and the song, The Forest. I thought, oh, I like that song. Let's put a bit of a forest up there. So hence The Forest, if you're wondering where the background came from. What is... Okay, so this kind of move looks natural. Just trying to get rid of this knight here. If we go rook c4, I mean, black can try... He can't really hold this knight here then, I don't think. So if he goes g5, you can suddenly take the pawn there. Now, let's maybe just show why you can't take the pawn on h7 at the moment. That is, unless you are Bobby Fischer. Bishop takes h7. Oh, you might think, oh yeah, I've won a pawn. Well, the issue with this is after g6, you've won a pawn, but you've lost your bishop, most probably, because this king is coming like this. And one of the most amazing times that this happened in the history of chess, this kind of sequence, was in the World Championships in Reykjavik in, oh God, I always get the date wrong, 1972? Someone's going to tell me. Fischer versus Spassky. What was it, 72 or 70? I keep thinking it's 73, but it can't be an odd year. I don't like odd numbers. Odd numbers don't fit. Was it? Come on, guys, in the chat. When did Fischer play Spassky in Reykjavik? Was it 72? What year was it? I think it was 72. I did get it right. Good stuff. And someone's saying 2016. Well, they played again, didn't they, in Serbia? But that was, you know, not in 72. 72, good. I did get that right. That's nice to know. And one of the amazing things that happened there was Bobby Fischer was playing Spassky. They had a couple of draws in the match, and this was like okay, yeah, by the way, rook c4 has been played. Very normal move there, trying to get rid of that one. And you know, this was the big East versus West. I'm sure you all know about the match. If you haven't, and learn about it, or just watch the Hollywood movie, what's it, Pawn Sacrifice. I thought it was quite a good movie. I'm not sure about the characters there. Didn't you have the Hobbit playing Bobby Fischer or something? Is that right? Who was playing Bobby Fischer? The guy from the Hobbit. Didn't really feel right to me, getting a Hobbit to play Bobby Fischer. I think that felt a little bit peculiar to me. But he played it really well. Was it Toby Maguire? Was that right? Spassky was pretty good. Frodo played Bobby. He's jumping around a lot, old Frodo, you know, just because he saved the Shire. He now moves on to the chess game business. No, he was a really good actor, don't get me wrong, brilliant actor. He was a brilliant actor. But go and watch that film, it's all about the match. But very famously in that match, very early on in the match, Bobby Fischer grabbed the pawn, like that pawn there. And then Spassky trapped his bishop, and Bobby Fischer just lost this ending. It was completely crazy. And why did Bobby Fischer do it? No one really knows. Very strange. It's called Pawn Sacrifice. Okay, so black's now moved his knight back into the center of the board, and black is trying to keep his knights centralized. He's trying to block the bishops out so far, and he's trying to control as many squares as he can. So I have to say, Nordy Beck has played very well so far. Am I getting them? Am I getting them mixed up? Is Elijah Wood? I don't look. I'm not a movie expert, as clearly I'm just showing now. Maybe it wasn't the guy from the Lord of the Rings. I don't know. I apologise. It wasn't actually. I mean, they're all great actors. Don't get me wrong. But I thought someone, you know, who would be a more Bobby Fischer kind of actor. Well, I obviously don't know actors. Ralph Fiennes. Ralph Fiennes would have played Bobby Fischer better. Okay. Anyway, let's move on from the pawn sacrifice. It's Spider-Man, not Frodo. Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's what I meant. I think. Yeah, getting mixed up. Even though I love the Lord of the Rings. Love the Lord of the Rings. That was actually the guy who wrote that, Tolkien. He based it on like the foresters behind me, you know, walking around in England. Okay, so back to position. So knight e6, black trying to keep centralized, keep things solid. What can white now do? Because you need to try and dislodge one of these knights, and it's going to be very hard to get rid of the knight on e6 now. So good play from black, very good defensive play. Lonely fans, I think you're right. Matthew McConnelly would have been a great choice as well. Yeah, very good choice. Okay, so what about this? What do we do? Well, can we play bishop e4? This is my first thought with white here, and their times are getting a little bit low. Remember, they do get 10 seconds a move. You've got 8 minutes versus 9 minutes, and maybe this is my first thought, because I want to get rid of one of these knights and I want to start targeting my opponent's pawns. So what would happen after bishop e4? He hasn't played this, I don't think. Nope. Bishop e4 looks very natural to me. What is black's plan if this move occurs? Is it to go rook to this square? Well, that looks quite dodgy defending like this, because I've even got bishop a5 now. And, you know, my bishops are causing quite a lot of stress here on the position. And the other idea, he has gone bishop e4, by the way. My other idea is, okay, now this has been played. So the problem is he couldn't move the knight because he would have lost that pawn. So he has to defend this knight. Now my first question is, what happens if I move my bishop in? Because if you play b6, do I take on d5 now? Maybe black is okay here. Maybe black can even take the bishop here. But even taking here could just about be okay. And if it looks like white's winning a pawn, but after rook to b5, I think black gets the pawn back. So this is not so clear, because you've lost the bishop pair and things are not so bad here. So we're going to go back. So bishop a5 might be able to be met with b6. I mean, I'd play b6 if I could. I can play rook d7. This would be my second option. The reason this is not my first option is you're losing control of an area of the board or a square, which I don't really want to lose control of. You're losing the c8 square. So I can kind of improve my rook now with rook to c8. And you can see my rook has now become much more active. It can maybe get behind a pawn. So I would rather not move my rook if I had to. But he has moved his rook. Okay, so he could have thought about playing b6 there, possibly. But he's gone rook d7 instead. And now rook c8 has been played. King e7, this is the current position. And black has still managed to keep his pieces nice and compact. I mean, when you're playing with the knights, you want to keep them compact. You want to keep them close to each other, because remember, they're short range pieces. So you want to be able to give them chances to defend each other. But now Esipienko is starting to put pressure on these pawns. So black now moves the pawn up to b5. I still think black's done a very good job of defending so far, but I would still take white in this position. I'd still take white. And it is that typical bishop versus knight thing. You do, though, have to watch out now for maybe knight to f4 and some counterattack with rook to d1. I don't think that's going to work because I can always swap rooks with rook b7, but there is a little bit of danger to white's back rank, so you must watch out for that. So what should white now do to improve? So I'm now thinking this is a weakness, but if I can't get rid of your knights in the center, my bishops are not going to work to their full potential. Now I can consider taking one of the knights off and trying to win a pawn, but I don't really want to give up my bishop pair unless I'm getting something concrete for it. So how about I play like maybe rook a8 and I start targeting this other pawn here? Well, I think the problem with rook a8 is that now black can start this counter attack with knight to f4. And how dangerous is this counter attack? It's not actually checkmate because I've got bishop e1. So I can go rook takes a6, and if you go check here, can I play bishop to e1? It looks a bit risky for white, but I've won a very important pawn here. This is a very interesting position. You can now see that the black knights are actually starting to look quite scary, especially with a knight coming here. But are they doing anything? Are the knights actually doing anything here, or do they just look scary? My bishop stops the knight coming there. Maybe this is, this is something they'd be calculating in this position. Esipienko is thinking, okay, do I have time to take that pawn and allow black this counterplay with the rook coming to d1? So he's clearly thinking about this at the moment in time. But he's now under 5 minutes, so he's got to be a little bit careful of his time situation. Under the 5-minute mark. Okay, so let's have a look at that line again. We will stick with the game when the moves come a lot quicker. I don't want to miss out on any of the action. But after rook to a8, this pawn is on pre. So maybe black just goes knight here. The problem with this move, which seems to defend and attack, is that I'm lining my knight up against the king. So this is another thing they'd have to be thinking about now. And that is, what happens if white now takes this one and puts that knight in a pin? How dangerous is that pin? And it looks to me like white will win the pawn on a6, but a lot of the time these positions might sort of liquidate into drawn king and pawn endings. For example, I move the king, and now, okay, I can win a pawn like this, so white goes a pawn up. But I think black has very good chances to draw this position, because it's only one pawn, and because you've got these weak pawns over here. They do say all rook and pawn endings are drawn. That's not true, but this looks like it could be a holdable position. Let's get back to the game. Now, king g2 has been played. So, okay, so an interesting idea there. g6 played by Nordy Beck. And I think white just is saying, okay, well, actually, my king does not want to be in the center of the board because of these ideas we've seen. Maybe my king is safest on h2. If I can get my king to h2, there's no knight checks. The rook can never come in because my bishop stops it attacking my king. So let's get my king safe. But now Nordy Beck is preparing to play f5. Very good defense. I mean, I don't know about you guys, how long you've all been playing chess, but I mean, I'm 40 years old now, and I've been playing like since I was 6. And when I started playing chess, computers were not strong computer programs, and there was this little rule that people always used, and it was that juniors were always bad at endings and positional play, but very good at tactics. And old people, probably like me now, were much better at endings, positional play, but their tactics weren't as good as juniors because their brains are started to be addled, So that's not true anymore. I mean, juniors like these guys, it is an Arsenal t-shirt, by the way. He's got his London football team t-shirt on, has Esipienko. It's not the same anymore. I mean, it's juniors are very good at endgames and positional play because they're learning in a much better way, and these guys are showing that now. I mean, it's very, very impressive how black's arranged his pieces. I mean, I think I'd still like white in this position. White should never be worse. Never be worse. But black has at least got his pieces to a very nice, solid formation. They're all very close, protecting each other. The one problem black has, of course, is these pawns over here. So now he's gone king g3. Interesting. So I did not expect that move. I wonder what he's, if f5, is he really going to take that knight off? Interesting move. Maybe the idea, and this is what I said earlier about allowing white's rook into this square. You remember I said if I was black I wouldn't want to allow that. Maybe the idea is if Nordy Beck plays f5, white can take this one off, and okay, this is okay if you can win a pawn, and now play rook h8. Maybe this is the problem, and black has no way to defend h7, so black is going to lose a pawn here in this position, and lose a pawn with check. And you don't want to lose a pawn, even if you might be able to hold the position. You don't really want to do this. Maybe this is not so bad for black, because black might be able to get a bit of activity, but it's a big pawn to lose, especially when the rook can try to win another pawn. So this is why Esipienko has just moved his king away from a knight check. It's quite a clever move, that, away from a knight check. And if that happens now, he might be threatening to come over and win this pawn. Was there any way black could defend that pawn? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at that position. Okay, so here. Now, a couple of things to note. You can't go knight here defending, because bishop b4 check wins the knight. So you can't do that. You can't defend the pawn with knight g5, because I'm assuming this one is going to win the pawn, even though this is not so clear, because after knight f7 here, the rook seems to be a little bit trapped, even though white can get out, something like that. This should be very good. So as some of you in the chat are saying, in that variation, what if he plays h5? Yeah, it's true, you should play h5. And I kind of underestimated this move. This is now very weak though, so how bad is this for black? Maybe not so bad. Maybe not so bad here. Because if I ever attack this pawn, you just defend it and you attack my rook. So this is okay for black. Yeah, h5, you're right. h5 is a good move here, guys. Well done. Can I checkmate you? Can I go here check? Ooh. And if you go king f6, obviously you want to activate your king. We now play bishop c3 check, and your king, you can block the check like this, but you walk into a very nasty pin there. But that's better than going king here, because then I go Harry 4 checkmate. Oh dear, that'd be an embarrassing way to lose, wouldn't it? Harry 4 h pawn 4 checkmate. Whew. So I don't know, we're going to wait and see what black plays, because this is certainly an idea. And it is a way to get rid of one of white's bishops. I think black should just about be okay there, but white's still going to be better. In rook endings, it's all about the activity of your rooks. Look how active the white rook is. The white rook can attack h7, and it can also attack a6. Okay, so black has decided, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come here with a knight instead. Very risky. Okay, and now white immediately has swapped the rooks off. And I think he's very happy to do that. Now white's plan, even though I said he had a more active rook, it's to use the bishops. He gets rid of any tactical problems, you know, with the black rook trying to come round and checkmate him. He's keeping it simple, and he's now white is now going for the a6 pawn. So he's trying to get the bishop come round at some point to win that pawn. I still think black is struggling here, but time situation is in. It is in black's favour. That's one thing going for him here. So rook to b7, and after rook to b7, okay, black going for the activity, a bit of a check there. White's certainly going to be happy that these rooks are going to be exchanged off. Is he going to come in with the other knight? I wonder if white can't go forwards because f5 wins the piece. He doesn't really want to go here, so I expect he'll go king g2 or h2. So he's saying to black, you can move your knight in, but your knight's not really doing much. So for example here, if black came with another check, now white would probably put his king on h2. And even though these knights look good, they're not actually doing anything. these knights are moved away from the queen side in defense of this. Remember what I said earlier about the knights being short range pieces? They're very bad at defending pawns on both sides of the board. And the problem with moving the knights in like this, you can't defend the pawns in blue here. So I'd imagine white will just be winning these pawns at will. So this is not the way to go. Hence why black has tried to centralize and bring this knight back towards the center. Keep your knights in the center. He's still playing very, very well, is Nordy Beck, to just about hold in with this game. So remember, they're getting 10 seconds of move, but you can see white only has about a minute and a half left now. This is where I would be literally shaking and getting nervous. I mean, do you guys find this as you get older, you get more nervous in your chess games, and maybe in life as well? You take less risks. I used to take far too many risks, but as I get older, I'm like, a bit more chilled out now. And I've watched a lot of strong grandmasters, and as they've got older, they used to be. I've watched a couple of world-class grandmasters in the 80s, and I watched them play, you know, in their later years, and it's horrible to watch sometimes because they start shaking a lot more. They're clearly more nervous than when they were in their prime. Clearly more nervous than when they're in prime. So he is kind of. By the way, look, what's he doing? Does he know about the time? Does he know about it? You're not old, Simon. When you get older, you'll be more calm. Thanks. Give me another 12. Okay, so he swapped the rooks off. Okay, here we go. So he's moved, and now he's come here, putting this knight under pressure. This is. I think it's still looking quite bad for black, because white's idea is simply boom, boom, win the pawn on a6. The bishops are so strong, they really are in open positions. What I mean by open positions, if you take the C file, the D file and the E file, there's no pawns on those files. So that means it's very open. There's no pawns blocking up the position. If there was more pawns on the board, then it would be a lot harder. Dual purse, I won't be looking at all the lines now because the game is really heating up, and I think we should stick with the game position if that's okay. Now black is trying to get control of this square for one of his knights, so he probably wants to put a knight on this square, but white does not have to go to b7. The good thing about the bishops, long range pieces, they can attack the queen side, but they can also start to attack the king side as well. And this is where the bishops are going to come in. And if you look at white's bishops, they're attacking a lot of squares. One thing you have to be careful of is, of course, knights are very tricky. They're the hardest pieces to predict. So now black is maybe trying to start a little counter attack, getting the knight to c4. He's really using those knights fantastically well here. And this is a bit annoying because it's b2. Very nice move there. Very nice move. And white's very short a time. Very short time. Has this knight move changed? Has it changed it? I've always been on white's side, but hang on a minute. How do you deal with a knight coming to c4? Attacking your b pawn, because you can't go bishop to d4. And if you have to swap off one of your bishops, it's very bad. What's going on? 12 seconds. Can he see his time? Oh, maybe Nordy Beck is going to win this one. 4, 3, 2. So calm. Look at him, so calm. I mean, this is a sign of a chat. If you look at a lot of the strong chess players, they are so calm. He had 2 seconds left, and he's just like, yeah, not a problem. You know, I'll be like, if you've seen any of my streams, you'll know that I'd be shaking and like, I'll be not able to move the mouse. He just doesn't. He's just like, yeah. You know, James Bond character, you know, when James Bond in the films is trying to, you know, get rid of the timers. But what's going on after knight here? Threatening to win here. Are the knights being really tricky? He's worked these knights fantastically well. This move looks actually quite tricky for white, no? I think white's misplayed it with this king g3 move. One move and it's maybe gone wrong. Because what about knight d4 coming into e2, or maybe coming into b3? This is really unclear now. What do we play against knight d4? Okay, he's gone f5 instead. He's gaining some space and he's asking the bishop the question, where are you going to go? And he's gone back to c2 and he's going to put the bishop back on d1. Why didn't he go knight d4 last move to stop this maneuver? I think he wants to go bishop d1 and then start kicking these knights back with b3. So if you go knight d4, again, it looks like these knights are very active. But after I go b3, you're going to have to start moving your knights back, and I prefer white again there. So I'm not sure about this f5 move. It looks good, but maybe not. I prefer to have got my knight to b3. So I think, though, black is still holding the balance here. He's still holding the balance in this position, in this tricky looking position. So this has occurred. Knight d4, bishop d1 has occurred. It's quite a funny situation. Now you've got to ask, are the knights dominating the bishops, or are the bishops dominating the knights? What do you guys reckon? The king has now come in, so the king can maybe try to target the base of the pawn structure. This is a very good thing to do in an ending. You look at your opponent's pawn structure and you look at the base of the pawn structure. So what's the base of that? Now it's g6, and you try to attack the base of the pawn structure. On the queen side, this is the base. You try to attack the base. Why do you want to attack the base? Because the base can't be defended by a pawn. You know, the pawn on b5 can be defended. The pawn on a6 can't be defended. So now h5 being played by black, and the idea, I think, is if king g5, knight to e5's place. So if I try to attack the base, knight here comes, I defend and I attack. Really very, very good use of... Okay, this didn't happen. Oh, maybe I had the wrong position, did I? Okay, something weird happening. Went knight f4, knight e5, king e3. Okay, sorry, I thought h5 had been played, but it hadn't been played. And now white is trying to centralize his king, and I still like white. It might look like black's made loads of progress, but I think, remember what I said about pushing your opponent's knights back. Often it takes a long time to do that, but with maybe f4, which is played immediately, and then b3 coming next, the bishops will start to come out, and I think those knights are going to be in a bad situation. If you go knight check, it's only a check. King d3, I'm going to go b3. So I still think that this position is very nice for white here. So knight d7 played. Get my coffee in. Gonna have to get another coffee after this. Keep the coffee coming today. Okay, so black is trying to now put his knight on this square, which is another good square. He's using these knights fantastically well. They say the hardest moves in chess are the backwards knight moves. White now trying to improve his bishop, maybe get it to the c3 square. And with the bishop on c3, you're trying to get rid of these knights. Just what white is trying to do to win this, kick those knights back, force them back, and then use your bishops to eventually dominate them, and then start hitting the base of the pawn structure with your bishop. So the light squared bishop would love to get to g8, start hitting that one, or it would love to get to one of these two squares, but only when you've pushed your opponent's pieces back. Only when you've pushed them back. Keep pushing them back. I see someone saying, Axe Dude, Simon would have ended this 3 minutes ago. I sure would have. I would have blundered at least 5 minutes ago. With either side, I would have lost a piece already. I would have already been resigning. But look at the time, 26 seconds against a minute. They're so cool, aren't they? They don't seem to panic at all. They don't seem to panic at all. And black is at least very active with his king. So I think, you know, even though I prefer white, black keeps playing this ending extremely well. And if he's able now to get the knight to d5, for example, which he might now do, yeah? Knight b6 into d5, is that possible? You can start to attack the pawn on f4. So I don't know. I mean, I keep saying white's better, but is that really the case? Let's have a look. Is this move possible, or is there some b3 move? I don't know. Why can't I go knight b6? Their time. b3, knight takes b3. Is there any tactic there? Okay, he's gone the other way, so it's the same idea. The knight is trying to come this way, and now white defending that pawn and giving himself king d2. So his king will now come to d2. And black has managed to keep his knights and king coordinated so well. So well so far. And both for a short time. This first game, I still prefer white, but it could really go either way now. Black's defended brilliantly. Brilliant defense by black. And now h4 played. And black can try to start swapping off some pawns on this area of the board. How is white going to make progress here? I remember a very funny position that some... Okay, so now black closing it down over here. Knight b3. I don't think black is doing that badly, surely. I think black's made a lot of progress here. Somehow white has got pushed back and black's coming into the position. That's why I think any result is possible, actually. I always like white because of the bishops, but this is one case where the bishops have not really worked, and maybe he's overestimating the bishop pair in some ways. You can overestimate them. Black has coordinated brilliantly. It's brilliant play. Very impressive play by the young Nordy Beck here. Okay, so check king here. Probably a draw. It's probably going to end in a draw, right? Do we think it's going to end in a draw here? Well, they've repeated moves once. Is there any way either side can make progress? Black can try to put his knight on e4. What about knight here and come into e4? This idea. This might be nice. Knights are so tricky. This is the thing. Even though the bishops should have kept the board, maybe this knight f6 is a very good move. He's down to his last 20 seconds though. He's gone for it. He's gone for the win. Very brave play. Very brave play from Nordy Beck. He's playing for the win. Whoa. And you're right. These bishops have not worked. The knights have done a great job. What a thematic ending. I'm gonna have to learn a lot from this ending. I just assumed the bishops are better, but he was never able to get the bishops working. Very interesting. Now it's white to move. Obviously this would be a winning move, so I'm thinking something like f3 may have to be played. Black's knights though, working very well. And you haven't, white, let's imagine you get the bishop to f7. That would actually be very good for white, but he hasn't able to do that. Okay, so bishop e5, the white's come back, and now he's trying to repeat the position, trying to get a draw. Black's now trying to get his knight into c4 maybe, by going this way. The bishop's come back. Esipienko's just trying to hold the position. Probably a draw is the most likely. Probably most likely result is a draw. The knight comes back, the bishop comes back. They've repeated this position at least once already. Can black make any progress here? Is there a way to make progress in this position? Not so easy maybe. Not so easy to make progress. How do we do it? How does black improve? Because white is just going bishop backwards and forwards like this. So if we come here, check, there's king e3. This bishop kind of stops this knight from moving as well. So it's not just a bad bishop. You could say it's actually quite a good bishop. Okay, so black is still trying to win. Very brave play, but haven't they repeated this as well? If he comes back now to d4, it's getting very near a perpetual and a draw. He's going for the win. He's such brave play. This is a lesson to be learned here, guys. It's a really big lesson to be learned. And the lesson is the real champions at chess, when I've seen them, when they're younger years, they never agree draws. They always play for a win. And this is the way to improve. I used to take draws too often when I was a kid, but the likes of some of my peers, I don't take draws anymore, but they always played on. Even if they lost, they learn more. Okay, so now they're both very short time. Keep an eye on their clocks. Keep an eye on the time here. Is there a way to break through? I feel this is the only way to play for a win. And he's now trying to bring the knight another way around. He's maybe stopping bishop here, so Esipienko just trying to keep the king in a central position. king to e3. And now black trying another strategy. King to d5. Is the king trying to come into e4 in some positions? Maybe. But you need to get rid of the king then. If black can get a knight to this square, he'd be doing very well, but he can't move the knight there to get in. So all of a sudden, okay, he's repeating. You can see him shaking his head there. And all of a sudden now, what's happening here? Oh, nice little tactic there, knight d5. Such sharp tactics. Whoa, amazingly sharp tactics. Black seems to be making progress, because if you take the knight d5 check, where does the king move? And now you've got rid of one bishop and you get this position. This looks actually quite good for black. Look at the domination of black's king. So Esipienko, 22 seconds. He's got to find a good mover. He's actually nearly in Zugzwang. He's nearly in Zugzwang here. The knight is coming to this square. There's nothing you can do to stop that. Bishop, okay, 5 seconds. He's so calm. Look at him. 3, 2. So calm. You know, so calm. Why is he so ridiculously calm? And now he's losing a pawn. He's lost a pawn. Nordy Beck, what brilliant play. Brilliant play. Black is a legend. Tangs, I completely agree. How did he do this? He completely, everyone assumes the two bishops are better, but he's outplayed his opponent with the two knights. This could be a textbook game. This could really go in some endgame books about how to use the two knights. Keep them close to your king. Use your king actively. Esipienko, I think, played a little bit sloppily, but didn't do anything too bad. And now black is definitely winning now, because he's got a chance to get a passed pawn. If he gets a pawn to f4 and a pawn to g3, he will get a passed pawn. He's kept his knight centralized. He's kept his opponent's bishop out of the game. I mean, it's not over yet, because you've got this bishop on the other side of the knights. It's got a little bit of range. So, not so easy. And now black is doing very well. So this is a big result. So the first game, you can see the format below. The first game is a win. It looks like it might be a win for black, which is you know, you win with black. It's a massive achievement, because you do have the advantage of the white pieces. I actually like to have a look at this game, analyze this game in my own time, because I want to know where Esipienko went wrong, because he was clearly better at some point with the two bishops. He might still be able to hold this one. It's not so clear, because now if you look where the bishops have got, they've got active. They've got on the other side of the pawns. Before they were very passive, and now they've got active. This is the one thing that white wanted to do very early on. Now, this check going to be met by a sacrifice like this? It might well be met by a sacrifice. So, for example, I want to play check, and now this move is possible, but can black sacrifice like this? And how is this kind of ending? This is winning for black, because black just goes like that and wins the ending. There's no way to stop the g-pawn. So let's go back to the game. He's played bishop h5 instead. So black is pushing for the win here. Attacking the pawn here. What can black now do? Black can push it. Of course, passed pawns should be pushed. I don't think this pawn is going to be easy to stop, is it? How do you stop this pawn with 17 seconds left? Oh dear. I think black's going to win. Okay, so he's trying to come back to f2 now. f2, but you do have knight f4 here. Knight f4. But maybe that's a draw. Knight f4, bishop takes here. Let me just show this line. And now black can win a piece like this. But in actual fact, after this position, white has at least a draw, because he's going to win the last pawn. So that's one line that he's trying to do. So he's gone g2, bishop f2, knight f4 now. And he's just now attacking this one, but keeping his pawn. I think black's winning, yeah? Black is winning. That pawn is one square away. There's no time left for Esipienko here. And this bishop cannot stay here. You move this bishop, I have knight h3 even, or something. or knight e2. Yeah, I mean, this must be winning. So he's trying to keep his bishop behind the pawns. You can see they're both getting quite fidgety now, a bit of excitement with the time control. And now black is just thinking of how he might be able to convert this position. Black played really well. I see you in the chat. He's gone here. Beautiful idea if it works. Blooming heck, this kid is talented. Giving up the piece there because it can be taken in two ways. But he wants to go knight check and take there. So now white has given up the piece. And I think he's going to resign now. Fantastic game. Fantastic game from Nordy Beck. Fantastic game. That was a brilliant game. Magnus Carlsen would have been proud of that one. I'm not even joking. That was a fantastic game. Brilliantly played ending. I mean, let's just have a look at that little tactic at the end. This is an amazing move. You're offering this piece to two pieces. If you take with the bishop, then black was going to go check. You move the king. You take here. You stop the bishop coming here, and you queen next move. Brilliant ending. Brilliant ending. Whew. Pretty amazing game. That's one game I would, as an experienced grandmaster, like to learn from, because you assume white is doing very well. He's got the two bishops. I mean, earlier on around here, I'm sure white is doing well, but all bit by bit, black outplays his opponent and he gets his knight centralized. And look what he does. He uses his king brilliantly. He pushes the pieces back, and here I misjudged the position. Okay, so we're now going to just take a short break. I will be back in one moment, and we need to update the score there. I don't know why that's not updating. Let me just do that. Just going to take a short break, guys, and we'll be back very soon with round 2, and we're going to see Nordy Beck with the white pieces next, and we're going to see how it goes on there. So don't go anywhere. I'll be back very soon. The game is due to start in only 3 minutes, I believe, so I'm not going to have a long break, but stay tuned, and we're going to see round 2. What a brilliant game that was. So I'll see you all again very shortly. Okay, so we're back, and amazing first game there. They're about to start their second game, so I may have to readjust the cameras again to get them live. Now, this is the Lyon competition over in Spain. You can see the sponsors down the bottom there, if you want to have a little bit of an investigation about them. And it's a great tournament in Spain, now be played online, and this is the Young World Talents competition. The schedule is here. This is another semi-final right at the bottom, and the winner of this goes through to the final to play Savannah, who's another Russian prodigy. So we're going to see who plays this, and then the winner of this qualifies for the Masters tournament at the top. Now, they have started, so let's just go back, and I'm going to have to reframe their videos by the looks of it. So apologies for that, but at least we can keep an eye on the moves. And now it's started. Nordy Beck with the white pieces with Aurora Lopez. So let me just adjust the, get their cameras back up. Sorry about this. It's something that occasionally happens. But you can follow the moves. Oh, okay, we got one of them back as soon as I got rid of the other camera. Okay, so we just add this now, and we're going to rock and roll. So this is a Italian variation, and one of the main lines, and they're both playing very positional chess so far. And there you go. You can see both of them now in the view there. So okay, and a little Gambit line here. So this is a line which is very interesting, very interesting line. I will go through the opening moves again when they slow down, but the idea of this Gambit line from Nordy Beck is to get pressure on the dart squares, and f4 is a key move here. It's a key move. Now, one brilliant line here is if h6, you go bishop here, and now g5, and this looks like black should be okay, but there's an amazing move here theoretically, and that is the move f4. And this is a simply astonishing move that actually gives white a pretty much winning position because of tactics involved on the dart squares. For example, you win a bishop, I take here, and I'm threatening both of your knights with my queen and with my rook. So actually a very interesting opening variation. I'm just going to show you this one more time in case you want to give it a go. It starts with bishop c4, which is the Italian variation. Bishop c5 or knight f6 are normal moves. And after this one, you castle, and you get the main position with knight to f6. You can see Esipienko trying to remember his theory. And here, d3 is what most of the top players play, trying to keep it very solid. But d4 is a very exciting Gambit line, which I know has been recommended in some sources. So remember this line, guys. You can have a lot of fun with it. And the point of this line is, if black takes with the pawn here, you get like a Max Lang attack, if any of you know that, where white can now push on with this move. And this leads to some fascinating positions as well. And if knight takes d4, you simply take on e5, you win your pawn back, you have pressure. So the main line is bishop takes d4, which has been played, but now white wins the bishop pair. It's all about the bishop pairs today. And after pawn takes here, white can even consider e5 again in this position. Knight takes e5, rook e1. And this is actually winning for white because you have pawn to f4, winning that knight coming next. So the variation after knight takes d4, bishop to g5 is a mainline position. And if black doesn't know the theory here, it's very tricky. This should be equal. I remember this line being equal, and this is one of the better moves. You don't want to fall for that little variation, and white immediately goes f4. So this is white's idea. Pressure on the knight, on the pinned knight on f6, and against the knight here. So it's definitely a roughly even position, and this is supposed to be the way black should play. I'm just trying to remember the theory now. The theory in this position, push the pawns, is saying queen e7 and eventually castles queenside, which makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense in this position. I suppose if you go queen e7 though, you've got to watch out for my knight trying to come into d5. That's something to be quite careful of. I mean, had you gone, I mean, we're not going to go into all the theory here. This makes a lot more sense. Just develop a piece, and now knight to a3 immediately. So interesting to see how their preparation is. So it is a pawn sacrifice. Let's remember, white is a pawn down, but this is clearly in Nordy Beck's preparation. At this rapid time limit, you can experiment with your openings a little bit more. And there's always this problem with the knight here. This is the issue. And I think white's plan is maybe to go c3 at the right moment, force this knight back here, and then you can try to do something involving taking here and then attacking the knight on f6 with the bishop and the rook, keeping that one under as much pressure as you can. So this is the kind of problem that black has. The bishop, very annoying pin for black. Black should be even, but I can't remember the theory here. I can't remember the theory in this position, and I don't think Esipienko can. And it's really nice to surprise your opponents like this occasionally. So this is the kind of opening. It's you know, interesting for you guys to investigate in a very mainline position. In a very mainline position, you play something along the lines of this. Okay, we can add the scores here. Let me just try to do that very quickly. And so you got anyone else new to the stream can come along. It's not going to be as pretty as I want, but we'll get there. Okay, there's a big 1 over my head now. So we're just going to try to add the scores so you can see what is going on, guys. If you just come new to the stream, and quite a big shock, really, because I say a big shock. Okay, that's not very clear, is it, the score there? But you get the picture. You get the picture. There we go. Okay. So Esipienko lost the first game with the white pieces in what was a brilliantly played positional encounter. It really was very mature win. So if he loses this game, if white wins this game, it's going to be really difficult to come back, because you're then 2 points down. So it has actually gone as Push the Pawns had recommended theory-wise, and it's gone with what looks like probably a main line. Black trying to... Okay, that will have to do. Black trying to castle, but not finding it easy to do so. And you can see white has damaged those pawns. As we're going on. So let's have a look at those last couple of moves. So knight a3, queen e7, because now you don't have to fear the knight coming to c5, trying to get the king castled this way. And now white decides to immediately take on f6. Now I don't know the theory. I don't know if you need to take this straight away. Maybe you do, because black's queen is starting to come over with some discovered checks. And after this one, white now pushes that knight backwards. But let's remember that black is a pawn up. So I think this is the main line, and black should be equal in this position. Okay, black's pawn structure looks horrible, but it is an extra pawn. Saying that, where'd you put the king? Where'd you put the king? I mean, I always like keeping my king nice and secure here, and I'm not sure how you do that. And he's taken a long time to think here. Is he looking at some ideas with taking and queen c5? Is this what he's looking at? So there's two choices. You either retreat the knight, which looks like maybe the most logical thing to do, or you try something with a tactic with queen c5. So you might take on c4 first. Let's say bishop takes c4. I probably take on c4 because my rook is attacked. And now queen c5, for example. This is something you can consider playing, but I don't think I like this, because white has a number of options here. Probably the simplest, taking here, queen takes c hits, must be all right. Well, maybe this is the way black should play. So Esipienko's just got to remember his theory. Just got to remember his theory, because in this position, after queen takes c4, black is one move away from getting to the ending, which should be good for him, but it's white to move. Does white have any good options? I think black's okay here, yeah? Black's okay. Of course, this is still theory, but the problem that if we go back to the game, okay, knight c6 was played, and now queen f3. Okay, so he's allowing this check. Clearly, Nordy Beck is still in theory here. He's allowing the check here. Wow. Okay, so let's have a look. Now, I don't want to take the bishop first, because if I take the bishop first, the knight might be able to get to e3. For example, takes, check, which is a fork against these two pieces. But now my knight comes back to e3, and my knight has some decent squares. Even here, I guess black can castle, but it's probably all right. But what's happening if I go queen here, check in this position? What is this about? Now, I can't block with my knight now. I can swap queens off, queen f2, but I'm a pawn down. I mean, if I swap queens off here, I'd imagine black just takes the queen and just puts the king on e7, and black's a pawn up. Because you don't want to swap queens off the board when you're material down. And this must be better for black here. I know it's not a great extra pawn, but it's still an extra pawn. I mean, is it better for black? I imagine so, because if you ever take the bishop, black can take with this pawn, which is very useful at controlling these squares, meaning if the knight ever comes round, it can't get into these two squares. So has he played anything? So the key line goes check, and now what if white sacrifices the piece with king to h1? And if king to h1, you play something like bishop takes c4, and now I guess I take here first, or do I take the bishop off first? I probably do something. Well, let's say I take the bishop, so I don't allow any tactics here, and then if I take on f6, I'm a whole piece down, but I'm threatening your rook. Is this enough compensation? Esipienko's thinking exactly the same as us. The reason that Nordy Beck is playing so quickly with the white pieces is because he's prepared this. It's home preparation, and Esipienko is trying to work out. He knows that black should be okay according to theory, but what is the theory? Okay, now there might be another way of playing this for white, but I'm just wondering if this is enough compensation. I guess black just moves the rook here. I don't really see where white's compensation is. You're a whole piece down. This looks like it should be losing. Okay, well, thank you. Is that the Nihal Sarin? Maybe. I missed out on your commentary for your match yesterday, Nihal. Sorry about that. It was a mix up with the times, but unlucky getting kicked out. I'm sorry you got kicked out, lost the match yesterday. Obviously rooting for you. So this doesn't look like it should be the way that white plays. So let's go back to the position. So after queen f3, we're wondering what happens after check. Now people are saying in the chat b4. Now b4 is a move. There is this queen f2. Nihal is suggesting queen f2 and just trying to get the rook over to take on this square, which doesn't look stupid. One more line I want to look at with this one. If you do take here, a lot of people are shouting, what about b4? It's a very good question, because if we can keep the queens on, I think we want to keep the queens on. I think we want to keep the queens on the board if we can, just because we're a pawn down and the black king has not castled yet. So if I play b4 here, which again, well done for you, those of you in the chat for finding this move. Maybe this is white's idea. This looks also quite possible, yeah? I mean, black might be all right, but the black king is always a little bit risky here, yeah? A little bit risky. Where does it go? I mean, because you can't hold on to your piece anymore. So again, I'm sure this is all theory. It's not theory I play. And we can see by the way that Esipienko is thinking, he's taking his time, and he's trying to work out the theory here. And I wouldn't like to face this position as black without remembering the theory. So this is the current position, and we're thinking maybe check and then this b4 move. What else could black play? I mean, I suppose the problem is if you lose this pawn, you could be in a very bad position. You could be in a very bad position. I mean, I'll just put a move on the board. Let's say that black tries to castle. I'm not going to castle kingside because it just looks, whoa, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look at that. It's naked in the wind, and you can get arrested for being naked in the wind. So don't do that. I don't like it. So let's say the black king castles this way. How bad is this? And now I can take this one, I feel. Because if you go check, now I can go queen f2. And the difference between this and last time is that I've won the pawn here. Your king is actually in a worse place. Black's king is not central where it can defend the pawns. And positionally speaking, maybe white has this pressure along the f-file. Some small problem here. Small problem for black, I feel, in this position. So it's okay. He has gone bishop takes c4, so he's played this one. And is he gonna? Okay, he's castled immediately now, and this is a better move order. And the reason this is a better move order is we cannot now take on f6, because if we do this, this move definitely works, because now we don't have queen f2. Remember, we had this in the last variation, but we can't play this now because the queen takes c4 and we lose the piece. So black is playing what I think is a sensible option. He's just getting his king safe, but it is a big difference in time here. Black is still a pawn up, and maybe white is going to consider a move like knight here, or b4. b4 looks maybe more sensible. Let's play b4 here as white. We stop this check, we gain a little bit of space, and I suppose we're going to take on this square straight away. But I think Esipienko has done the right thing. He's found his way through the complications there, and I think he should be all right here. I think Esipienko should be okay. Yeah, he's okay. He's a pawn down, but it's not that bad. He has some weaknesses on the f-file, but it's not that bad. I mean, he looks so relaxed even after that last game, which was a real tough game there. I mean, I think Nordy Beck just played so well. He played incredibly well in the first game. Really did. It was really an amazing first round. And he's taken the lead. So Nordy Beck is one game up. Esipienko can't really lose this game, otherwise it'd be 2 games down. It's going to be really hard to come back from that. So now I would assume that after castles, the current position, white is, I would be surprised if he's totally out of his theory, but he might be, you know, he might just been trying to remember what he's looked at, because it'd be strange if you got to this position with quite logical moves. We were trying to work it out live, which makes it a lot harder, but then you get to this position and you're like, right, what do I do now? So I'll be surprised if he's out of his theory now. b4 looks so natural in this position. But again, I don't think black should be that bad, because the reason I'm thinking black should not be bad, he has some active moves like rook d3 in the ending, I'm assuming. Saying that, queen takes f6 is annoying. So how would black play against this one? I mean, I want to avoid playing b5. I mean, I was thinking about this move, but it looks so weakening. Your king's on that side of the board. I'm going to play a4 later on, and your king is going to be in loads of trouble. I don't think you can play such a move as this here. So we're still waiting for white's move, but b4 looks like the most obvious. And then black has to demonstrate some kind of plan here. Is it queen here? What about queen e6 then? I'm trying to get that knight away from that square. I can't take on f6 because you win the knight. I need to do something with my knight here. Now knight e3 would be the most centralized square, and I've got some decent placing and go, but now I want to play rook d3, and this could be black's idea. Rook d3, attacking the pawn and pinning the knight, and this is the kind of thing where black should have enough activity in the position. I can't read all the comments, so I'm trying to keep up with some of the chat in Twitch. I'm looking at the chat in twitch.tv/chess, so if you're chatting anywhere else, I won't be able to hear you. I see that Color Zoma May is saying that he doesn't like b4 because it's strategically weakening. And I can see his point in some positions, because now I'd rather want the pawn back on b2, yeah? Because you're threatening to play rook takes c3, and if you can take the rook on c3, your knight, you know, this is looking quite good for black. So you're right, maybe this position here is not correct. So okay, so he's gone knight to e3. He's played knight to e3 immediately, and he's kept his pawn on this square. So okay, well spotted, Kolazume. And now black has a choice. This pawn is under attack. You can't really defend this pawn because you can't go rook d6, because knight to f5 would win material for white. I think it's worth pointing out that the best form of defense is often active defense, and what I mean by that is black has won a pawn, and often when you win a pawn you go a little bit on defensive, and when you go on defensive you can start trying to you know, I don't want to get active, and it's really such a bad way to play. And I think this is a great bit of advice for everyone watching this trying to improve who's lower rated. One of the biggest mistakes I see in players is playing too passively. You know, trying to hold on to the pawn like a Scrooge. Oh, I want to keep my money. I'm not giving any Christmas bonuses. No turkey for you. You're working on Christmas. Just give the pawn up. Don't hold on to your pawn. Sometimes you should just give it up. Okay. And he has gone for a little bit of activity, but at the same time, he's defending against queen takes f6 because of the tactic on his knight. So this is good active defense. Good active defense. So don't only go passive if you have to. And now, well, what should white do? White can either try to defend the knight, or he can try to move the king out of the pin here. White's main idea is to take on f6. Hello, Blair. Is that Blair in the chat? Barbary Macaque. Hello, sir. They're saying this has all been played before. It does look like main line. Obviously not theory I'm well used to, but what do you know the theory, Blair, at all? Is Barbary Macaque. Queen f2 has been played before. So thank you for the update on theory. Unfortunately, this is not a line I play, so I don't know it, but both these guys probably know what they're doing. Okay, so white's done a very sensible thing. He's broken the pin, so now his knight can move. He's also stopped something like rook d2, and white's idea of this whole opening, I'm assuming, is at some point he's going to win this pawn back, and then he's going to have pressure against this pawn. So positionally speaking, white's saying, okay, I'm going to win one pawn, I'm going to try to win the other pawn, and I'm going to go a pawn up. And we've just seen this guy's endings. Nordy Beck's endings is completely, I mean, his last ending was one of the best endings I've seen. It was amazing. I don't even know if it was an ending. Middle game, the two knights dominating the two bishops in an open position. What was that? I'm still shocked about that last game. Who plays an ending like that? It was really, really impressive. So we know how good Nordy Beck's endings were, and I don't think Espienko did anything that wrong. I don't really see where he played badly. I mean, you know, it was just amazing play. So I think white wants to now go knight to d5, yeah? Knight to d5. Okay, so he's just moved his king out of any checks or knight checks. Is that the right thing to do? Don't you want your king ready for the ending to come to f6? I'm not sure. And now let's say white goes for this plan of trying to win this pawn. Now to win this pawn, you need to do something about black's queen. So I'm just going to try to go knight to d5. And my idea is, okay, I'm a pawn down, but let's try to exchange queens. If not, I'm going to win that pawn. And when the queen's off, even though white is a pawn down, the f6 pawn is going to be dropping, and then maybe the f7 pawn. So this position here, again, if you know the theory, Blair, that'd be quite useful to know. But this position here looks like it should be quite good for white, no? Maybe black is just about holding equality here, but I don't know how. How can you remain equal? White has a very simple plan, very good knight on d5. Sure, okay, it's theory, but tell me what the theory is then. Don't just say, yeah, theory. I don't know what the theory is. So what is the idea? So rook takes here and here. Is this what he's trying to do in this position? Okay, so knight d5 has been played, and now we see black's idea. Black does not like that ending. That ending did look quite bad for black because these pawns are under a lot of pressure. So black has decided to go queen f4 and attack this pawn here and keep the queens on the board. So that does look like a more active solution. The exchange of queens was always looking quite good for white, so black is deciding to keep those queens on the board. Time situation massively in white's favor at the moment. Massively in white's favor here. Now what should white do? Well, knight takes f6 is one move you can play. Let's have a look at that. You win a pawn, you defend this one. It's also handy to maybe stop rook g8. I mean, I was thinking about rook g8 earlier, but I didn't think rook g8 really did much because you're not really doing much on the g file at the moment. So knight takes f6 looks normal, and now what is black's idea here? Because the thing about this position, the black knight is not very good because this pawn dominates that black knight. The black knight cannot get active. So you're not playing with that knight, but you do have the d file. Can I use the d file? I'm not sure how I use the d file. It's not clear to see how you use the d file. So even here, I think white might have some small advantage. This piece, I was thinking you could try to bring this way, but even that doesn't really help. And I like the way, again, that Kola Zume, and sorry if I pronounced that wrong, is thinking. He's thinking very cleverly in the chat in Twitch. And what I mean by that, we have some more moves, by the way. Let's get to position. Well, white just went queen e3 because he thinks that rather having a knight on f6, he'd rather have a rook on that square. Black defends it with his rook, and now another reason this is good, we can start pushing that queen away. The queen has gone to b5. And I like the way Kolozami is thinking. He's basically thinking, look at your worst placed piece, which is your knight here as black, and think if you can improve it. But the position has now changed a little bit. White has this very demanding piece, and white can now think about some even pawn storm over here, using the pawns if he can. So what is going to happen now after queen b5? I mean, it's maybe roughly even this position, but it's still, I'd still rather be white. Okay, so he's grabbed the pawn back. It makes sense to win that pawn back. It makes sense to take that pawn back on that square. And after this move, rook takes f6, rook takes f6, black trying to swap off, knight takes here. I prefer white. I prefer white's position here. I'm just wondering if this king move made so much sense. I suppose it did because we had ideas of queen here check otherwise. But you kind of like to swap queens off maybe at some point as black, but you don't want to play queen b6 here, do you? Can you all see why? Why don't you want? Who's going to be first to see it? Come on, Twitch chat. Why is that a bad move? Who's going to type it first? Come on, keyboard warriors. Come on. What is the move? Cool. Oh, well done, pumpkin guy. Pumpkin guy. Keyboard. You got on the keyboard quick there. That move, of course, is winning. So I feel that white has managed to get some kind of edge here, no? Because his knight's better, his knight is centralized. The f7 pawn is a weakness. I can just try to target this one. Black's queen doesn't look great to me. White has a nice centralized queen. So there's all these very small things why I prefer white. And let's look at the time situation. White is 10 minutes up. So what did black do wrong in this opening? It feels like he did something wrong. Can anyone tell? Anyone tell me what he did wrong? Come on, Blair, who's Barbary McCure in the chat. You can do the theory, man, because if he did do something, if he didn't really do much wrong, this could be a great opening for white. This might be something that I will try. Something that I would try, possibly. This opening idea, which we're maybe have a... He didn't play as white. Well, he played as white last time, Tattoo Age, and it didn't work very well. You can't have white every game, and it didn't work last time. It didn't work. He didn't study theory. Well, I think he did. I'm only looking at a database. Well, yeah, I don't know, because this certainly looks like it's better for white. It's not much better, but I prefer white slightly. I mean, let's say black now plays a normal move, like trying to get the rook on the open file, and then trying to get maybe the rook into d3, because you want to activate all your pieces. So let's say he goes rook d8, getting his last piece into the game. If I was white here, I would probably just stop this rook from coming into my position, especially this square, and I'd just go knight back to d5 and say, okay, I want to play rook f1 next, I want to take there, and I want to win. Yeah. And this is such a nice knight here. This is really good knight. I was vaguely thinking that black might try some tactical idea like f5 here, and maybe... No, I don't think this works. Because if I take it, you take my knight, and by doing this I'm using a tactic to try and get rid of a positional weakness, and this is a very clever thing to do in chess. If you have a positional weakness, which is the pawn on f7, and I say this is positional weakness because it's a real target for a rook, you try to get rid of it for a tactic, but the tactics could backfire here because I can support my knight on d5 and I can play c4. I attack the queen, support the knight, and I'm just going to take now this square. Let's say the queen moves. It doesn't have many squares either. Ugh, look at that crappy square. And then I just go pawn takes f5. And I'm like, okay, queen coming up, boys. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, Blair's actually telling us where black might have gone wrong in the opening. And I would like to... Okay, do we have a couple more moves? We do. Okay, maybe we'll have a look at this afterwards. So rook d8, knight d5, a5 has now been played. Now the problem with a4 is you might lose b3. So Blair's saying f5 is a clever idea. I'm just going to show that very quickly because I'm intrigued about this opening. So I want to go back very quickly and just show this opening idea. We'll come back to the game very shortly. Now the opening, I'm not going to speak much about it. It's this very interesting gambit line that I know Alex Lopez suggested, and it's on move, what move was it? Move 14. So we're just going to get to that. This is all theory, and apparently a very clever idea on move 14 is not castle's queenside, which looks natural, but instead to play f5. And the idea here is if queen takes f5, you can now check, and there's no knight to e3. Because the queen is not defending the knight. Very nice little move, f5. And if you take with a pawn on f5, you've blocked up your play on that file, and now black can castle. Okay, you're not a pawn up, but you're never going to be able to hold on to that pawn, and black doesn't have the problems on the f-file that he has in the game. So f5 is the theoretical move. Well worth remembering that. Very interesting stuff, I think. And if we go back to the current position, we had it around here. And after c4, the queen has gone to this horrible square. Look at that square. The queen is like hovering on the side of the board. And it's now stuck in by the pawn. It can't come here because of the knight. So rook f1, simple idea, trying to take the pawn. And now black is trying to gain counterplay with a4. And black is offering the pawn on f7 to try and get some counterplay. Now things are not that bad for black, but they're pretty bad, because at least he has the d4 square for his knight. I mean, saying that, I know he's got 3.5 minutes to white's 11 minutes as well. Anyway, it's nice to look at these theory things, but I think that opening is actually going to be included on the one of the next Ginger GM DVDs. We're looking at that opening, so I know Alex Lopez and Fiona, if you know what I'm talking about, this is the company I run, they were suggesting this opening. That's why I'm aware of it on this new Ginger GM DVD, but I'm going to have to do a bit more research on it now. So let's have a look. So a4 being played, and black is, I think, just trying to take here, get the queen in, and then maybe try to win the pawn here, but it looks very slow. So what happens if I go rook takes f7? Come on, give me the pawn. And now I want to just chomp him. Chomp, 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 chomp. Like a greedy man in Burger King. That's what that rook is. It's going chomping. It's chomping everything. Well, when I say DVD, of course I mean videos, but I was calling them DVDs. Downloadable videos, you know what I mean. Do. I'm an old man, that's the problem. So what is Black's idea? And we can see Nordy Beck is thinking about this move as we think. So what's Black going to play? Is he going to take here and then come check? What's his idea? Well, I think, could it also be a3? I don't think so. It must be to take here and then do something, but I don't see what he's doing. What is Black's idea? I don't see it. Don't see Black's idea here. I have to be honest. Because my rook can always come back if need be. You know, let's say you give me a check. Okay, well done. Go away. Stay away. Queen, stay away. Anyone know that song? Probably not the way I sung it, but come on. I'm sure someone knows who I'm trying to sing. And now maybe Queen d4. Is this potentially the idea? But White's a pawn up in the ending, yeah? White is a pawn up in the ending. I mean, this can't be good, can it? Maybe this is what he has to do, trying to win this pawn. But you know, it can only be White who's better, yeah. Well, at least someone understood my singing there. That's good. That's good to hear. Otherwise, you know, my music career is already faulted. There is a threat. Rook takes d5, isn't there? So let's say I play h3 here. This is actually winning for Black all of a sudden. I get rid of the defender of the queen, and if you take the rook, I take the queen. If you take the queen, I take with my rook. So maybe this is the idea. So that's why White's thinking. White is thinking rook takes f7. Maybe Black's going to come in with a check here. And next move, go queen d4. So let's have a look at this position. Is Black holding on after queen to d4? Is he holding on? Okay, so I'm going to take that one. And now I don't think pawn takes is correct, because your pawn is not that dangerous. I think you have to take the knight, and Black is going to try to keep his knight active. And now it seems to me White should really have an advantage here. But what's the best way for White to play? Let's just say I go rook f7 again. And I can go back to Burger King and start eating those burgers again. Maybe not so clear because of okay, what's he played? Let's go back to the game. So these are all potential lines. And he has just played queen to c5. So he hasn't even grabbed that pawn, and this is such a mature move. Just to remind you the ages of the player, Espienko is 18, and he's a former under-16 world chess champion. You can just tell, look at all those trophies on the cabinet behind him. Look at all them. Chess champion of Russia, chess champion, I mean, loads of great chess, you know, trophies there. And Nordy Beck is only 15 years old, from Uzbekistan. And he's the second youngest grandmaster in the world. So Black has now taken here and come into a2, and Black is desperately trying to take on b3. Also, very important match situation, because Nordy Beck is 1 point up, and if Nordy Beck with the white pieces wins this game, he's going to be 2 points up. We have our first main threat of the day. There's something going on g2. So Espienko is coming back with a little counterattack now. He's got a big threat there. It's getting very interesting now. Very, very interesting. And one of the reasons White played this move, he wants to stop the Black knight from moving. Because now if the knight comes into d4, we have queen takes c7. But what do you do with your pawn? Of course you go g3. Stop that threat. And this is a big threat. It's a big threat. b5, queen takes c7. So Black's had to come back. Ooh, I don't like this for Black. I don't like this for Black. I think White is on the edge of winning another game. So this is you know, but at least now the knight can try to come in. And I think he's forced this move, so his knight might eventually have another option of coming into f3, potentially. So I mean, I don't like this move because it's passive defense. I mean, remember what I said about passive defense earlier? But maybe this is the only way to play. So what can we do as White? I mean, it looks very scary for black, but black is now coming in with the knight to d4 and starting his own counterattack. He looks so chill, doesn't he? Esipienko, yeah, I'm 1-0 down. I've got 2 minutes on my clock. I'm just going to have a little stretch. Chill out a little bit. You know, take it easy. Maybe my position's bad. He's relaxed, man. I wish I was that relaxed. You know, how much easier would life be if you're that relaxed? Okay, so he's come forwards. Now, is b6 the move to play? So it's Esipienko's move. I'm imagining the knight comes into d4 here. Knight to d4. Looks like the move. But if you go knight to d4, can we just play b6? This is what I'm thinking. And we're just trying to open up the king with this move. You're using a pawn. They called this in an old book, Art of Attack, by Vukovic, international master in the 1930s mainly. He called this like the bayonet attack. You use the bayonet. You use one pawn to try and rip your opponent's protection away. And this is like a bayonet attack. And the point is here, if you now take, what is happening if I go check here? And all of a sudden my queen and knights work fantastically well together. So Esipienko is still thinking about the move, but this shows a lot of dangers. I don't know if white's winning here. What's he played? Okay, well, he's gone queen a5. He has decided that he needs to try and stop the b pawn from moving, because now obviously the pawn is pinned to the queen. So he's trying to hold on in this way, but it looks very, very dubious. Yeah, I mean, white's got all this pressure now, all this pressure on this side of the board. The rook, the reason white has not moved the rook is because the rook is stopping any queen checks where black might get counterplay. So if we now played rook takes here, maybe black can get some counterplay. I'm not even sure about that. I think he will try to go like check, and if you move the rook back, try to get this ending again, but this still looks really bad for black. But maybe white has something even stronger here. I mean, I like rook takes f7 because you're bringing another piece, and now these checks don't look that scary to me because you're getting out of the pin. That means the pawn can move. So if this check, can I even play better with something like king g2? What about this line? And now you probably have to play queen here again. But these endings are really good because I'm going to be 2 pass pawns up. So this could be leading to 2-0 up. Okay, any moves played? He has gone rook takes f7. Take the pawn. If you can take a pawn, you take the pawn. And the way that Nordy Beck has played, again, incredibly clever, because he could have won this pawn earlier. But you often don't take the first pawn you can take because you want to increase the pressure. So there was no good checks there, as we just demonstrated. So black has now come in with the knight to d4. And he's just going to try and use his queen and knight to start a counter-attack against the white king. So we can always come back with the rook if we need to, but is there a better move? Is there a better move for white here? Let's have a look. Is there a better move? Well, take it on c7 is something that we can certainly consider. But after rook takes c7, we go, okay, this is certainly critical. So this move is the first thought, yeah? And if this works, it could just win. It could just win. Because the point being, if you go rook takes c7, I now just go rook f8, and it's checkmate, next move. Your king is trapped, and if here I just take that one, checkmate. You can't escape. So rook takes c7 is critical, but white has to now, well, I think it's at least a draw for black. This is not good, because all of a sudden, look at your own king. Queen e1 check, king here, queen e2 check, and black has a draw. If you try to come here, check, come back. In actual fact, black is very close to being winning if you can get the knight involved. So you don't want to play this because there's no way you can escape the checks. So this rook is needed to defend the white king. Do remember the white king is a little bit Oh yes, I was. Yes, I was thinking. Why didn't I was thinking rook takes, but of course, cool, I'm losing the plot here. Okay, so knight takes was key. I was looking at rook takes for some weird reason. So this way you do keep the rook to defend. Okay, that makes a big difference. So what happens now in this structure? Can we do something with queen e1? It feels like black must counter-attack here, otherwise black is going to be lost. So queen e1 looks natural. And now, if you go king here, I take on e4 with check. So rook f1. And I have a couple of options, like queen e3 check. This still looks quite dangerous with white. Because if I go rook f2, for example, you go knight to f3 check, and you win my queen. And if you go king to g2, well, again, I should have some kind of perpetual check. It's actually a little bit like before. The queen and knight, very good attackers. Very, very good attackers. So I'm not sure that this actually works. So instead, white has played queen to b4, and this is a much more sensible move. Just stop that counterplay. You've won a very important pawn. Your rook can come back, and you're stopping the queen coming in now. You don't need to try and finish the game straight away if it allows counterplay. And let's remember that Nordy Beck is one game up. They're both very short on time now. Both very short on time in this rapid game. So this looks like a good move. So you're stopping queen to e1 check. Now the endings are going to be losing for black now. Because if you look at these endings, you've only got the knight active and you are losing a second pawn probably. And it's just losing. These pawns will queen. It's just a matter of time. We saw Nordy Beck's endgame technique. So you can't take there. He's under a minute. You do get 10 seconds each move, but you've got to move soon. Now what I think he's just I think he realizes how bad it has become. So he's come in here with some idea of keeping the pressure up against white's king. Now of course white can still go wrong here, because if you lost control of the f3 square, you allow the knight into that square. So if white goes rook takes h7, this would be a crazy bad move. It's too greedy. You don't need to get greedy when you've already got a good position. You allow the knight in here check, and all of a sudden black might be okay here. I mean, even here I'm not sure. You know, I'm not sure if this is working, but there's no reason to allow that check. So b6 played instead. White wants to now checkmate black. He's covering. He's not worried. He doesn't think that black has any good checks. And c5. Whoa. Trying to keep the king as safe as he can. 39 seconds. The queen comes back to defend everything over here. And this pawn is a real problem for the black king. The black king is stuck on a horrible square. But at least black has now won a pawn. Queen takes c4. Now, what is happening if I go queen a1, for example, threatening checkmate? You know, it's always nice to threaten a little checkmate here and there in life. A little bit of a checkmate. Well, I suppose you can defend with queen a6, can you? We're waiting for the move. Only 30 seconds for black. So I see a mate. I play a mate. Okay, this is key. And then black has to stop this one coming here. I don't think there's any good checks. There might be. Maybe knight e2 is possible. Is this one possible here? Maybe. Maybe this is just about possible. I don't know. Very hard to complicate. I mean, I might even be able to go king g2, queen takes here check, and king h3, and hope that you've run out of checks here. Because if black has run out of checks here, this should be the end of the game. But this requires really careful calculation, because maybe now black has knight g1 check, because this distracts the queen away from a7. And after I go queen takes g1, you go queen takes d5, because I no longer have a checkmate. It's really complicated. Let's keep with the game. Let's keep the game. So king to g2, safety first. White has put his king on a square which avoids the knight checks. h5. Nordy Beck playing very, very cleverly. And now that the king might be quite safe on h3 now. You know, go king h3, and then you can start thinking about going for this attack. Really sharp position. They're both getting low on time. Well, we do have a bit of Harry the H-pawn action there. He's a little bit slow into the game, is old Harry, though. You know, okay, so another idea, back rank. Ooh, that's a good idea. That is a good idea. He just wants to, and look at the time. I think this is going to be, okay, Queen e4, now the new threat. I think this is looking really bad for Esipienko. He forgot his theory. Can we go rook takes b7? Nearly, doesn't quite work. And then I wanted to go queen here. I think king b8 just about survives. So I'm thinking rook takes b7. I'll show the line I'm thinking here. Then my queen comes in with check. And if you go king here, I have knight c7 check, winning your queen. But I believe that the black king can come back there and black is safe because the knight defends against queen takes a7. So you can't do that. So white now thinking, he's gone queen f5 instead. And the good thing about white's position, his king is so safe on h3. White must be winning now. He must be winning. There's no dangerous checks now because the king can come to this square on h3. Worst case scenario. Rook to d8 played. Is black desperately trying some sacrifice? We will have a look. So it's white to play. And he's played it. He's played it now. And now it works. Because we have the c7 square. Yeah, we can see it. Oh, we have knight e7 though. Okay, so now, because we have the c7 square, the rook was defending that square before, but now we have the c7 square. Amazing stuff. So he has to go knight e7. He has to divert the queen away. And is this winning? Is this winning? Or does black suddenly have a perpetual check? Now, I did say the white king was very safe here, but this could be an amazing perpetual check. It's gone all crazy. It's gone crazy. Can white win this? Because if you go queen takes rook, queen e2, and then it's a draw. You have this kind of thing going on. Queen to g4, draw. So has he thrown it away? Was knight e7 the move? Is there any way to win this position? Is this winning? God, so cool defense from Esipienko. He looks a lot more confident now. You can see he's like all of a sudden, I'm the daddy. He's probably a bit too young to be a daddy. No, he's not actually. He's 18. But anyway, let's not even go there. I'm the daddy. Okay, so I don't see how white is winning now. I think maybe he has to take the draw. Does he have to take the draw? He might have thrown away the win here. He may have thrown away the win. I'm not sure. Because okay, you can check the king, but the black king is just coming forwards. I mean, okay, so he's gone king h3. He's still playing for the win. Oh, blimey. And I don't think he's risking anything from this, because if queen takes e4, he could always take the rook with a draw. And that nearly rhymed. If black goes in with a check, the king is coming to h4. Queen f1, king h4 is the idea. And then black runs out of checks. He runs out of checks. Oh, this is very... Look at the time, 14 seconds. So he's given up the rook. Rook takes d5. I think black's got excellent drawing chances now. Excellent drawing chances in this position. But with the time left, I'm not sure. They're both now under a minute. If it's a draw, then Nordy Beck is 1 point up. I think this is quite important for a close match, because if Esipienko loses this game, he's going to be 2 games down, and Nordy Beck only needs a draw. And the point here is that the white king is often in the perpetual check position. So he must be thinking about going check and going b7 here. What's this like? Well, then the queen can have the f6 square, so it doesn't work. You have to try to cover f6 to stop the checks. So for example, if I go check, king here, b7, 1 square from queening, black has at least a draw with check and check here. But let's stick with the game, because look at the time. 14 seconds. Oh no. Nordy Beck getting very short. He's gone b7 immediately. Queen takes here. What is happening? Is black getting a counter-attack all of a sudden? He's got to get a knight, but he might have to auto-promote. Oh no, where's the button? Maybe he doesn't have the auto-knighting on. He's got a knight. Oh, this is too much. It's getting so... I mean, black might be winning. Black might be winning now. Because white's played for the win, but he's... All of a sudden, there's queen g4 and rook d2. I think Espenko might have turned this around. Oh, that is one of the horrible situations when you're playing, you know, and you don't know how to auto-promote to a knight. White cannot be better in this position. There's no way white can be better because white is material down and black's king is actually, I think, quite safe. This king is now suddenly a bit of a target. Look at this, such an exciting match, this one. Two potential future world champions in this. Now black has at least a draw. Black can go backwards and forwards and get a draw. So it's totally changed around this match. Black should be winning. And he's gone to repeat the position one time. I don't think he'll take a draw here. It must be winning. But you just need to be a little bit careful how you do it, yeah? He's got 23 seconds to find the win. Will he do it? Who reckons it's going to be a draw or a win? It's turned around this game so much. He's gone queen c4. He's threatening this check and then rook here check. And also he's using his queen to defend any white checks. A brilliant move there. So now white brings the knight closer to the king. But is this winning? Check. King here. The knight defends the rook check. So he's stopping the rook coming here because the knight will take the rook. 15 seconds left. Most people are saying, oh, don't know, win, draw. Oh, he's won the knight. He's won the knight. Oh, awesome chess. Oh no, you can see the pain there on Nordy Beck's face. And Espenko is... What a game. That was really painful for Nordy Beck. Espenko turning the game around there. Absolutely turning the game around. Wow. One game all. Don't know if you're as exhausted as me. This was a critical moment around here, and that's really got to hurt. You had this position, and Nordy Beck is trying to find the win. If he goes queen takes rook, it's a draw, because white, well, black can't win this. He's only got his queen. Black has to take a perpetual. In the end, white tries to win with b7, but after queen takes e4, suddenly this king is in trouble. So if you get a queen here, then you're getting checkmated. Queen g4, rook d2, and then queen d1, checkmate. So you have to get a knight, and the game then goes downhill. That was an amazing game, very exciting stuff, and it's 1 point all now in this match, in this very exciting. You've got to feel the pain for Nordy Beck. I can see him on the camera. I don't know if we've got the cameras up now, but I'm afraid not. But you know, he's got to bounce back from that loss, and Espenko's like the Iceman, as cool as anything. So 1 game all, 2 games to go. Very exciting match, but that was really hard finish at the end there. I'm going to take a little break before game number 3. Game number 3 is due to start in about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit less, so don't go anywhere. I'll be back very shortly in this match, 4-game match, where it's 1 game all. Going to be exciting as anything. Future world champions you're watching here, very possibly. So who's going to win? We'll find out soon. Back in a minute. Well, hello guys, back again, getting ready for the third round now. I'm gonna have to readjust the cameras again, aren't I? I haven't worked this out yet. It's one game all, as you can see, so just need to change the score there in this match. I will readjust the cameras. I think the games are due to start any second, so you have to bear with me while I do a little bit of editing on the move at the start of the show. But a very exciting match. And that was, well, I don't know about fortunate win from Espienko, but he really kept his cool there in that game. And who's going to take the lead in this one? We've had 2 wins so far, which is pretty exceptional, yeah, in something like this, and 2 extremely exciting games so far. So let me just readjust their cameras, because it's always interesting to see the facial expressions. And we're going to have Espienko with the white pieces again, and we'll just put him back into that top part there. If you just give me a second, I will just do this. And well, can Nordy Beck come back from that? That was a real blow, that last game. I mean, Nordy Beck was pushing for the win, and he pushed a little bit too hard there. Very brave play from him. He had a great position. He had a great opening position, and it just backfired a little bit. So the game's due to start any second, and I hope I don't have to readjust it again in a second now. That'd be most annoying. Let's have a look. Okay, we got them in their boxes. You can see Nordy Beck there chatting to someone. Maybe one of his family there, giving him a bit of a support. It's horrible to lose a game of chess. I mean, when I mean, I've played in many competitions in my life before, loads of times, and some losses are just so painful. I mean, I think 2 of my most painful losses were, I had one when I was leading the European individual championships, the EU championships, and in the EU championships I was playing Danny Gormali in the last round. Had I won, I would have come first equal with Nigel Short. And I'm gonna have to change the cameras again, aren't I? Brilliant. And basically yeah, I lost to Danny Gormali in the last round, and I played a horrible game, and it cost me the European Championships, and that was really painful. And I was driving, I had a 5-hour drive back that night, so I couldn't even go and have a drink to drown my sorrows. I had to drive back, and it was the most painful drive I think I've ever endured after a chess tournament. I remember another loss I had. I mean, it's funny how you remember your painful losses maybe more than your brilliant wins. Was against Lawrence Trent, and I think anyone would be, on the verge of suicide losing to Lawrence Trent. But it was at a British Championships this time, and I was completely winning, and he swindled me somehow, it felt like, and that was really painful, losing to Lawrence Trent. I mean, your life has fallen downhill when that happens. I mean, losing to anyone is different, but losing to Lawrence, oh god. But it was just the position. Like, sometimes losses are not that painful, I find. By the way, we're back into the next game. For example, if you're outplayed most of the game, you lose. It's not as bad as if you're winning. Let's say you're winning most of the game and then you lose right at the end. Those losses are much more painful when you get swindled as well. Don't you lose your GM title when you lose to Lawrence Trent? Well, I don't think I was the GM at the time. Otherwise, that should certainly be a rule. Now, they're repeating the opening that we saw in the first round, and it worked. I mean, I assumed that White must be a lot better. So did White. So we're going to go into this ending again with opposite colored bishops. But Nordy Beck played a brilliant game. One of the best games I've ever seen with 2 knights, and we get the same ending. And when they played this before in the first game, I was proved wrong. I basically said, I don't know why Black is playing this opening. White must be better with the two bishops. These two bishops are fantastic in an open position. And I thought that white just must, I even called it a 2-result game, meaning that white can't lose. White must either be able to draw or win this one. But then Nordy Beck outplayed Esipienko in a lovely game. So this is the first new move, just by the way. The first new move. Last time, white played bishop to e3. And in this game, Esipienko is trying king to f1. Now, I still must say, white has to be better here. We're going to be interesting. What do you guys think the result's going to be? If you were here from the start of the coverage today, then you will know how the first game went. And black now trying to get rid of one of the bishops in this position. I mean, I'm going to stick with my guns and say that I think white must be better with the bishop in an open position. Otherwise, everything I've learned, in my career as a chess player has gone wrong. I mean, that's possible. I'm literally don't know anything. Very possible. Wouldn't be the first time. But let's see. So, okay, well, this makes sense. So last time we saw the bishop coming to g4 and taking on this square here. But now we're seeing a different approach. Now we're seeing Nordy Beck just trying to get rid of one of the bishops here. And he's just trying to liquidate the position a little bit. Liquidate the position with some exchanges on e6. And that does get rid of the two bishops, which is meant to be very strong. I still think this bishop and the slight open lines gives white some small edge. Some small edge here. I've got myself a coffee, so I'm gonna have a little sip of coffee now and again in this one. Chill out a little bit. Still waking up, even though it's 1 o'clock. That's pretty bad if you're still waking up when it's 1 o'clock. But I need my coffee. I need my coffee. So whatever happens in this game, it will go to another round. I should just want to say that it will go to the next round. And white now deciding to put his bishop on this diagonal. I was thinking this diagonal, but he's put it here for now. So if black can get rid of this bishop safely, it should be equal. But you can't go knight e4 here because, well, I'm assuming white then gets his rook to the 7th rank. You don't really want to allow that. So knight e4 looks wrong. The knight is doing a very good job of defending the rook coming into the position. So let's keep the rook there. Let's keep the rook there. People telling me to have a recovery beer. Yeah, I did that a couple of days ago, and yeah, I'm still in recovery basically. So no, I'm sticking to coffee today. Coffee day today. So knight e4 doesn't look right in this position. So what will black play? I suppose white's got a very simple plan. White's plan could even be bishop takes f6 and rook d7. This is the other advantage. This is the other advantage of having the two rooks, yeah, in this position on these files. Both of these rooks are already on open lines. So I'm going to stick with what I said in the first round. I think white must be better, but Nordy Beck completely surprised me with his fantastic play. We have a draw offer. We have a draw offer. We've just had a draw offer. Black has played this and offered a draw, which white turned down immediately. White just said no. Wow. Can you believe it? Black has played this and offered a draw. Is that a little bit cheeky? It's a little bit cheeky. He's basically saying, come on, I beat you last time in this. I'll give you a draw this time because I'm generous. I'm Nordy Beck the generous. Sounds very Viking, that, doesn't it? He's offered a draw and white immediately turned it down. Don't insult me with your draw offers. No. Rook d7. In we go. Maybe well, I mean, I don't think it's rude. I think Nordy Beck thinks the position is kind of equal. He thinks, okay, I can offer a draw. What do you lose? You're allowed to offer a draw. I'll tell you what really annoys me. You're allowed to offer one draw. What really annoys me is when your opponent offers you multiple draws. Oh my words. Do you ever get that when you're playing on Chess.com and your opponent keeps pressing the draw button, like draw, 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 and I'm like, ugh. I even had it in a game once where I'm playing against some chap over the board, and I say chap, he's about 13 years old. I'm a grandmaster. He's about 1800 strength. I'm at the time 2500 strength, so I'm about 700 points higher rated than my opponent. This kid offers me a draw after 5 moves. It's in like one of the early rounds or something like the British Championships. I'm like, he offers me a draw. I've got the white pieces as well, and he offers me a draw, and I'm like what? And he go, and then 2 moves later he offers me another draw, and I'm like, oh come on man. I just ignored him, which I always try to answer, and then he offers me another draw on move 12, and he's already a lot worse as well, and I'm like, excuse me, I'm not going to accept your draw. I'd rather lose, so please don't offer me a draw again. Maybe that was a bit rude because he was quite young, but and then he resigned about 6 moves later. One of the funniest draw offers I saw, I was sitting near Grandmaster Mark Hebden, and his opponent offered him a draw at the board, a very important competition, and his opponent offered him a draw, and do you know what he did? He stood up and he went like this, and he said, "Where?" And then he sat down again. That really shut his opponent up. His opponent goes draw, and he stands up, he looks around, he goes, "Where?" And then he sits down again, and he just plays a move. I thought that was. I think I'm exaggerating that story. I wasn't that mean. Of course, I wasn't that mean. I was very nice. I mean, after you're offered a draw like 4 or 5 times in concession, you're allowed to say something because it's putting you off. I mean, and he wasn't that young. He was probably like 14. He was a cheeky little teenager. So come on, if your opponent's being rude, you should say something. You can do it politely. You should say, "Can you please not offer me any more draws?" Of course you can say something. Of course you can. Yeah, I'm exaggerating. He was about 14, and but he did offer me like 5 draws in about 5 moves, and it's, come on, man, come on, get the hell out of there, stop it, But I don't know. I've seen some other weird draw offers. Okay, so we have now knight c5 being played. So from that square. So he did not get a chance to take the bishop, and he's now just trying to kick the rook away. So what should white do? Well, white can either try to keep his rook on the 7th rank, which is generally where you should keep the rook. I just briefly wondered if he could go rook takes here and knight g5, but that's a load of rubbish. So rook to c7 looks critical, and he's played rook to c7. There's not really any good way black can attack this rook, because if you go knight to a6, the rook captures on b7. So I'm not really sure the idea of this move. What am I missing? Because there's also a threat in some positions of bishop takes g7. Has he offered another draw? I mean, I just got to check this. No, I don't think so. Okay, I just thought there was another draw offer coming in there, but it's actually from the previous. It was only one draw offer. Okay, that's all right. We don't want to see any more draw offers. That wouldn't be good. So in this position, yeah, bishop takes g7 might also be a threat, and I'm not sure why the knight's gone here, because that was only a temporary threat, and obviously white is going to keep his rook, if he can, as active as possible. If he does go rook to e7, which I'm thinking he might be his idea, I just don't think this works. You do get rid of the rook, but after takes, white has a number of probably good moves here, yeah? I say probably good moves. Can you go bishop takes g7? And if you take here, I'm just a pawn up. So you have to play knight to d3, attacking the rook. This is the only move. And now maybe black's okay. Can I go rook c7 here, attack your knight? It suddenly gets very tactical. I don't really believe this for black though. I think that black, this idea of doing it. So he hasn't done that. Black had another idea. He's gone rook on a to e8. And I think black's idea here is to put a rook on e7 and try to take the rook on e7. So the question now remains: can we take on g7 here? This is one question in the position. Ah. So white to move, and white thinking about what to play. Just to remind you, if you joined in this show a little bit late, this is the Lyon Chess Festival. You can see the sponsors below at the bottom. Lyon run a fantastic tournament over in Spain every year. Obviously this year's been a bit more difficult, so they've done an online tournament. It's been great fun. And while we wait for white to move, this has been the schedule of the tournament, and this is the Young World Talents tournament. We had the Masters Chess tournament like Dominguez, Shirov, other legends playing, simultaneous international, and this is the last one. The final is tomorrow at the same time, and this has 4 of the most talented juniors in the world playing, and so far it's been really interesting. And Nihal Saran lost to Sarana, I think it was yesterday. Sarana from Russia in the final, and whoever wins this one, you can see the format just below me. It's a little bit small, maybe I can make that a bit bigger for you guys. This is the format, and whoever qualifies will play in the final tomorrow, and then they can qualify for the Masters event. Both these players playing very good chess, and one of them will play Sarana tomorrow. Sarana, yes, yeah, okay. I won't try to pronounce it anymore, embarrass myself anymore. So it's now white to move and to think about what to do here. What do we do? So I'm assuming this doesn't work now, so let's have a look. If I do take on g7, which is a tactic you have to try and look at, I want to take here, but black does not need to go king takes bishop, rook takes c5, when white should be doing very well. My knight defends against any checkmate ideas, and I've won a pawn. So what you need to do in this position as black is probably play knight to d3, and this has a little trick. For example, now if I go rook to c3, and my idea now is if king takes here, take this one, well, there's a big problem with rook c3. Now that you've got your knight defending e1, black can just play rook to e1, and after knight takes, that is checkmate. So you have to be a little bit careful about these tactics. So after knight d3, a better idea would be something like rook to d1, but I think black is probably fine here. I say probably fine with knight takes f2, grabbing another pawn, because he's basically trying to take this piece but get as many pawns as he can for his knight. And I'm not even sure about this position. This is really complicated, because if you go king takes knight, king takes bishop, you can now play rook takes here, and white is a pawn up. Rook to e2 check comes, but I can just go king to somewhere like f1, and I've won a pawn here. So this is what he's thinking about. Can he take on g7? Can he take on g7? Aha, so thank you for pointing out in the chat that rather than playing this move, which looks like the first move to look at, there's a much more subtle way of playing. Your bishop's on pre, your knight's on pre. Now knight to a6 is much better move, because you threaten the rook and you threaten the bishop. This is well spotted by, I don't know who spotted that first in the chat, Joel Paras, but yeah. Okay, so I've just been told by the guys at Chess.com that we might have to move channels with this, because obviously, we're second best here. There's someone bigger and better coming along. How can there be anyone better than these two future world champions coming along? So what I mean by that is you got Espienko and Nordy Beck, two future world champions in this competition, but we might actually be moving channels over to Chess.com events, Twitch channels. So that might be happening in a second or two. Just finding out what I need to do. Okay, so I'll just find it out. So we might have to move channels, but we'll keep an eye on that in this exciting moment. Do we have any more moves? I'm just getting information. What's happening? Well, we do. We have knight to g5, and this was another critical idea. Attacking the rook, attacking the pawn. The rook has to go here to defend those ideas, and now rook takes e7, rook takes e7, and again bishop takes g7 is a move, and it seems to now be possible. Is it possible now? Well, I suppose now knight to d3 will be the response to bishop takes g7. White is pushing for an advantage here. A safety move would be something like rook to d1, just get it on that open file. But critical is bishop takes g7. Does this work? So let's have a look. Bishop takes g7. And if you take back, well, of course, I'm a pawn up. We know about this. So I think here, because your knight is on pre, knight to d3 must be now the move to look at. And if we move our rook, you're going to go knight takes f2, I'm assuming. So maybe black is just about okay in these tactics. Maybe just about okay in these tactics. Maybe just about okay. Maybe. For example, rook d1, and again I attack your knight, but now black has this intermezzo move, knight takes f2. And he keeps attacking the rook, but he's won a pawn now, and at some point I'm going to have to take this blooming annoying knight, and as soon as I take the knight, black takes here, and it's equal on material. White, you could say is slightly better because these two pawns are like split, meaning they're a little bit weak. These pawns are a bit better because they can defend each other, but it's not a big advantage at all. This should be a draw. So this is maybe what white is thinking about, but I don't think it will lead to any significant advantage. Time situation, okay, they've both got 15 minutes left. So I don't know about you guys, but everyone has a preferred drink. Everyone assumes because I'm English I drink tea, because of course everyone in England drinks tea, right? Of course we do. I like coffee. I'm a coffee man, and I found these really fattening cappuccino pouches because obviously a cappuccino machine is very expensive. I'm just a poor chess player, so I get these cappuccino pouches, and I have about 4 of them a day, but they're more like hot chocolate. So I'm sure it's like eating 4 chocolate bars a day. Keep the energy level up. Anyway, that's what I'm drinking. Just in case you wanted to know. My cappuccino pouches. No, not everyone in England drinks tea, even though it's very, the tea shops in England, very nice. Lots of English people do drink tea, but not me. I'm a coffee man. Okay, so it does seem like we are changing channels. So I don't know what's due up next on this channel. Let me just find out. And what I mean by that is the coverage of this event been kicked off, second best, is gonna now move on to another channel. It's all right. There's some big stuff coming on, of course, on this channel, and it's gonna be on. I hope I can put this into there you go, Chess.com events channel. So I think there's a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/chess.com events, and if you want to keep my commentary, then come and join me there. So I'm just going to end the stream very briefly, and in a second or two, and we're going to move to that channel, so you can watch me there if you want to. We'll be going live in a minute. I'm going to have to make it go live, but on this channel there's also a very exciting event, and I do understand why you might want to leave me. It's the Women's Speed Chess Championships Grand Prix semi-finals, which is also, of course, a fantastic event, which I would be watching if I wasn't commentating here, unless I was drinking or preparing my coffee. So we'll be back in a moment, conclusion of the Leon Young Master semi-final, and we're going to be in time for when this gets interesting. So I will see you very soon, and I'm going to end the stream now, but I'll start the other stream in a couple of minutes so we don't miss any of the action. So go and catch me over on Chess.com events if you want to continue watching this stream. Cheers for now.